All right, guys, welcome back. So in these notes here, I kind of give a little interesting background, more detailed background than what I provided last week when I talked about MK Ultra. That was kind of a broad overview. Project Monarch is one of literally dozens of mind control experimental programs conducted by the CIA during the heart of the Cold War era, operating under the umbrella of MK Ultra. Some researchers are quite certain that Monarch evolved from such sub-projects as Spellbinder, established to create Manchurian candidate assassins, and Operation Often, which explored black magic and the occult, interestingly enough. When I do my show again on MK Ultra and, Monarch applications in Hollywood, you'll see lots of examples of that. You wonder why the occult is so pervasive, guys. It's got much to do with not only mind controlling the masses, but mind controlling Hollywood personnel to start with, to spread this BS on the public. So many people look at Hollywooders and, point a condemning finger. Look how trashy, look how evil they are. A lot of times, guys, they don't even know what the hell they're doing. They're mind-controlled themselves, so you can be mind-controlled. And we'll look at classic symptoms of that, again, when I get into that discussion. The name Monarch may have been chosen for this project because of the bilateral symmetry of the monarch butterfly, where its wing patterns, the spots on the wings, as well as the overall body shape of the butterfly, are left to right mirror images of themselves. The left side of if you drew a straight line down the center of the body of the butterfly, the left side is a mirror image of the other, which reflects, of course, the bipolar disorder created in Project Monarch's victims, split personalities that are mirror images of each other. That's why another theme you'll see from Hollywood Monarch victims is imagery of mirrors. On album covers, for example, the celebrity will be shown looking in a mirror. And so, the message there is, again, this idea of a split personality, mirror imaging the individual to create an alternate personality. Looks and talks and acts like that person, but it's not that person. It's another personality. That was the whole theme, again, behind and I'm getting ahead of myself. I'll get into this later, but the whole theme behind, Hannah Montana. She's Molly Cyrus by day and Hannah Montana by night. Another person, another personality. Anyway, let's look at and you'll see the monarch butterfly, guys, when their clothing lines come out for these various MK Ultra mind-controlled celebrities, their clothing line, every time you'll see the frickin' butterfly symbol. There's a definite message there. Another example, real quick, I mentioned, and I'll be talking about this later, but a couple of years ago, Katy Perry was supposed to have appeared on Sesame Street singing a song with Elmo, and it never got aired because parents were furious that Miss Perry was dressed like a slut. So the whole thing was canceled. But interestingly, at the beginning of that, it's still on the internet. You can go watch it. It's on YouTube or whatever. At the beginning of that little song that they sang, and at the end, both times you see a monarch butterfly, a huge monarch butterfly, fluttering overhead. And, of course, most people won't think anything of it. Oh, isn't that cute? Little butterfly. But it's a monarch, guys. Right in your face. There's a, interesting little message being inserted there. Anyway, let's look at the ancient foundations of Operation Monarch. The mystery religions of ancient Egypt, Greece, India, and Babylon helped lay the foundation for occultism, meaning, hidden knowledge. One of the earliest writings giving reference to occultism, i.e. hidden knowledge, is the Egyptian Book of the Dead, a compilation of rituals that explicitly describe, amongst other things, methods of torture and intimidation to create trauma. The use of potions or drugs is also mentioned, and the casting of spells, or perhaps a reference to hypnotism, ultimately resulting, of course, in the total enslavement of the initiate. This is an old practice going way back. Guys, hearkening back to my show where I talked about the Hyksos and their hijacking by the Hebrews. How much you want to bet that the reference to mind control in the Egyptian Book of the Dead probably comes from these people? Because going back to ancient times, this stuff has been carried out all along. MKUltra was nothing new. They were just trying to incorporate a lot of modern discoveries into this ancient practice that was already known about since thousands of years ago, that you can control people by creating multiple personalities. But how do we implement that or integrate that with modern discoveries of, pharmacological products? Just like, Bertrand Russell had talked about. That was in the heart of MKUltra's experimental program. He was talking about utilization of pharmacological products to heighten the effects of propaganda and other methods of mind control. Oh, yeah, he was all for it. Anyway, these methods of mind control, trauma-based mind control, have been the main ingredients for part of occultism known as Satanism throughout the ages. And, down the line here, I'll be doing my show on Satanism and showing the elite Jew-pig connection, guys. Satanism is Judaism, as I'll be demonstrating on a future show. That's why, in modern times, and indeed going back, the past several thousand years, all your Satanist groups have always been run by Jews. Always. All right, guys, short break. We'll be right back. All right, guys, welcome back. So, you go back to the 13th century. Well, technically it goes back even before that, but it whipped into high gear, the Inquisition. And, this wasn't just about hunting down heretics. It was about intimidation, mind control through torture. This is what really consolidated papal power during this period. Not just, the victims themselves who were tortured into submission, but, the masses onlooking, seeing this happening, kept them in fear. What do you think the modern application of this is all about, guys, in the so-called war on terror? It's the same damn thing. Oh, I better question the government. I'll get tortured. And they want you to think that. That's why they talk about domestic terrorism all the time. They keep harping on that. It's all about mind control, guys. This goes way back to ancient times. And again, you can see it followed through all through the centuries. And when you understand that Christianity, particularly Catholicism, is an elite Jew pig creation and was run by Jews all through the centuries, many popes were actual Jews. Talked about that in the past. I'll be doing many more shows on that in the future. The Medici family alone produced half a dozen Jewish popes. But anyway, so it's no surprise to see these kind of methods being employed when elite Jew pigs were running the whole damn show. They carried this over, guys, since the time of ancient Egypt. Also during this period, we find that Satanism had thrived in various pockets, and that elite Jew pigs were running that whole operation. So no surprise to see that, Satanism is run by them today. They ran it all during that time. Oh, wait till I do my show on the Salem witch trials. Very interesting stuff. Oh, I tell you, the deeper you dig, man, what a rat's nest you uncover. History finally comes to life, and now you start seeing things very, very clearly. I've yet to see this myself, guys. A friend of mine was there and looked at it, and even Harvard University was there and did some digs. But, I won't go into any more details right now and spoil it, but there's a lot more to those Salem witch trials than what the history books have told us, let me tell you right now. Anyway, so yeah, Satanism survived all during this period, the Middle Ages, the Dark Ages, deeply entrenching itself under the veil of various elite Jew pig-created esoteric groups, secret societies, Masonry, Rosicrucianism. It's all the same, guys. Again, when I do my show on the New Age movement, I'll be demonstrating that. That New Ageism, Satanism, it's all the same. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm not saying that everybody that's into the New Age is a Satan worshiper. But the movement itself is intimately connected with Satanism because it's intimately connected with Judaism, which created all of this crap. But, I'll prove that on a future show. Anyway, in 1776, Adam Weishaupt was commissioned by the House of Rothschild to centralize the power base of the mystery religions and secret societies around the world that embraced them, to bring them together under one banner and to consolidate their efforts toward one common goal, world government. The amalgamation that Weishaupt created became known, of course, as the Bavarian Illuminati, or at least that was the group at the time heading the whole operation up. Its express purpose, again, was to consolidate and coordinate the efforts of all secret societies toward the goal of forming a despotic system of world government over which they would have complete control over the masses by employing ancient methods of mind control. That was the main key. How to control society as a whole, how to manipulate people, through propaganda and any other method that they could muster up, that the blessings of technology could offer them. How to exploit every conceivable means to bring the masses under their control. That was the main purpose of the Illuminati. And so, of course, Monarch is just one of many outgrowths of that. Anyway, let's carry on now into the 19th and 20th centuries. Seeing the control that the Rothschilds exerted in England, it shouldn't come as a surprise to discover that the first work in behavioral science research was established in England in 1882 to perfect, or perhaps to rediscover, what the ancients had stumbled upon, and elite Jew pigs had carried on through the centuries into, up to that period. In the meantime, much research into psychiatric techniques involved in mind control was carried out at the Kaiser Wilhelm Institute in Germany. From there, the Tavistock Institute of Human Relations was set up in London in 1921 to study the breaking point of humans. And I'll do a show on that scumbag enterprise in the future. Kurt Lewin, or Levin, a Jewish-German psychologist, became the director of the Tavistock Institute in 1932, about the same time that Nazi Germany was increasing its research into neuropsychology and parapsychology. And yes, they were involved in this. And of course, many of these scientists were later recruited by the CIA through Operation Paperclip after World War II. and contributed, to mind control research programs. One of the more prominent recruits through Operation Paperclip was German General Reinhard Gehlen, that was chief of intelligence against Russia. Upon arriving in Washington in 1945, Gehlen met extensively with President Truman, General William Wild Bill Donovan, director of the OSS, Office of Strategic Services, the precursor of the CIA, and Allen Dulles, who later became the head of the CIA. The objective of their brainstorming was to reorganize the nominal American intelligence operation, transforming it into a highly efficient covert organization. The culmination of their efforts produced the Central Intelligence Group in 1946, later renamed to the CIA, Central Intelligence Agency, the following year. Gehlen also had a profound influence in helping to create the National Security Council, from which the National Security Act of 1947 was derived. This particular piece of legislation was implemented to protect an unconscionable number of illegal government activities, including clandestine mind control programs. And we'll pick up there, guys, when we get back. Short break. All right, folks, welcome back. It's interesting to trace the history of this thing, how it evolved. With the CIA and National Security Council firmly established, the first in a series of covert brainwashing programs was initiated by the Navy, believe it or not, in the fall of 1947. They had a stake in this. People often, think that the Navy is some benign branch of the military, like the National Guard. Well, for a while, the National Guard was pretty benign. Not anymore. In the War on Terror, completely revamped that whole thing. But the Navy guys all along has done some of the most sinister of all research. Weapons development as well. The China Lake facility and the weather modification technology development. Disgusting. But anyway, they were busy early on, back in 1947, conducting psychopathic brainwashing techniques. Project Chatter was the name of it, developed allegedly in response to the Soviet successes in the use of truth drugs. This was the cover, of course, designed in case the program was ever exposed. They could say that, we did this to counteract Soviet, the Soviet trump card was used, of course, as a cover for a lot of crap. The whole Cold War itself was a frickin' scam. Anyway, the project was officially terminated in 1953, the Navy's Project Chatter. But next, the CIA decided to expand efforts in the area of behavior modification with the advent of Project Bluebird, approved by Director Allen Dulles in 1950. Its objectives were to, number one, discover means of conditioning personnel to prevent unauthorized extraction of information from them by known means. Number two, investigate the possibility of control of an individual by application of special interrogation techniques. Again, bringing back the old Dark Ages torture tactics. And again, going back way before that, to ancient Egypt, the Book of the Dead. This stuff has been known, guys, all through the centuries, the millennia. The two pigs, more than anybody else, have used this stuff. They were just trying to bring it more up to date. Investigate memory enhancement, number three. And number four, establish defensive means for preventing hostile control of agency personnel. In August of 1951, Project Bluebird was renamed Project Artichoke, which evaluated offensive uses of interrogation techniques, including hypnosis and drugs. This program ceased in 1956. 3 years prior to the halt of Artichoke, Project MK-Ultra came into existence on April 13th, 1953, along the lines proposed by Richard Helms, Deputy Director of Central Intelligence, or DDCI, with the rationale of establishing a, quote, special funding mechanism of extreme sensitivity, quote unquote. Special funding mechanism of extreme sensitivity. That's where your black budget comes in, guys. Where, funding could be brought in that far exceeded what Congress, had appointed for them through things like drug dealing. This goes back to the mid to late 50s, guys, and of course it whipped into high gear in the Vietnam War. That was used as a cover for a lot of the drug smuggling. As I mentioned before, they would bring in China white cocaine and opium stuffed in bags inside of the cadavers. Absolutely disgusting. That's one of the main reasons why that war had to go on. Oh, there's others, but that was one of the big ones right there. To fund their black ops. Anyway, the various avenues used to control human behavior under MK-Ultra included, and some of this is a review, rehashing of what I covered last week, but again, radiation, electric shock, psychology, psychiatry, sociology, anthropology, graphology, you name it, on and on, harassment, substances, paramilitary devices, materials such as LSD, which was the most widely used material in this program. A special procedure designated MK-Delta was established to govern the use of MK-Ultra abroad. MK-Ultra/Delta materials were used for harassment, discrediting, or disabling purposes. There were 149 sub-projects listed under the umbrella of MK-Ultra. Project Monarch, of course, being one of them, has not been officially identified by any government documentation as one of the corresponding sub-projects, but is used rather as a descriptive catchphrase by survivors, therapists, and various insiders that have spoken out over the years. So there wasn't actually an officially named sub-project called Monarch. But again, it's given that title because of its effects, and as we'll see, guys, even though that wasn't a title that they themselves used, themes pertaining to the monarch butterfly pop up all over the place in association with obvious usages of this project, as we'll see when I talk about its appearances amongst Hollywooders. They like to throw this stuff in your face. Okay, you want to call it Monarch? Okay, we'll use the Monarch symbol. We'll throw it right in your face. Yeah, we're doing this. We're creating multiple personality disorders in people all the time. Sure. They're proud of it. Anyway, as stated earlier, Monarch may have culminated from MK search sub-projects such as Operation Spellbinder, which was set up to create sleeper assassins, as I said, one of the purposes of it, or Manchurian candidates, who could be, quote, activated by hearing or reading a key word or phrase while in a post-hypnotic trance. Very important aspect of this whole thing to keep in mind. Trigger words, they're called, which could set a person off into their alternate personality. They use the word alternate for short. This could be done by making a phone call to them at a key moment when you wanted them to leap into action, and all the person would hear is that key word or key phrase. You might recall an old Columbo show that played off of this theme years ago, back in the 70s, where one of the murders he investigated involved dogs being used as assassins, quote unquote, where the dog trainer would simply have to say one word, and in this case, the word was Rosebud. I remember watching that as a kid. That's why when I studied MKUltra later, that was the first thing that popped into my mind. Oh, where did I see this before? I've heard of this. Oh, yeah, the old Columbo show. A lot of times Hollywood guys, they'll throw this stuff in there, right in your face. So it's not just humans. Yeah, they've used animals with this, dogs particularly. So when the attack dog heard this key phrase, the dog would leap into action and attack the target. And the dog would only cease when the trainer said the other word that would bring the dog out of that alternate personality, and literally, it was another personality. This calm dog that was sitting there just panting, looking around, harmless, suddenly would become this ravenous beast like it had rabies, and violently attack the person, going for the throat to kill them. And the dog would continue to attack until the other release word was spoken. Then the dog would instantly go into this other personality. Well, they've done this with humans, guys. Anyway, as also stated earlier, Operation Often, a study which, again, attempted to harass... Got a break coming in, guys. I'll pick up there when we get back. All right, guys, welcome back. It's one thing to get people alerted to just how sinister our elite Jew pig-controlled government operates with things like MKUltra. It's one thing to wake them up to that, to get them to realize that this stuff actually went on. Stuff that, should be common knowledge because it's public record. But it isn't. But anyway, it's hard enough to wake people up to that, but then to get them to understand the occult factor in all of this, the Satanism factor, to get them to realize that the CIA has been collaborating with Satanist groups from day one because they share the same mindset, they're run by the same criminal bosses, elite Jew pigs, and that, what Satanists do to their victims is exactly what projects like MKUltra does to its victims, and so they can trade victims back and forth that have already been prepped. When the CIA is done using somebody, a lot of times they'll turn them over to these Satanist groups. Here, we're done. We want them dead anyway, so here, you might as well use them in your rituals, and it works the other way. Satanist groups will give some of their victims that they've tortured the living daylights out of. Here you go. They're already tortured. They've already got multiple personality syndrome. You don't have to, this will save you a lot of work. You don't have to torture them yourself. Just utilize those personalities we've already created to your advantage, however you want. So, yeah, naturally, you see them working with, all kinds of organized crime syndicates. The sky's the limit with these bastards, folks. Anyway, we got some callers on the line here before I delve into that any further. Let's go to, don't have a name, but welcome to the show, caller.
Hello?
Yeah, you're on the air. What's up? I see your...
Okay, great. I just want to ask you, I haven't heard the whole show, but have you tied in Penn State with this Monarch?
Well, not Penn State per se, but yeah, I mean, I mentioned last week, I think it was, that it's another Franklin-type child porn ring. So yeah, that's always involved when you get child porn going on. That's a given. Sure.
Yeah, can I read 3 sentences that does directly? First of all, Penn State is tied to Franklin, and so Penn State is also tied to Monarch.
Sure.
These sentences are, for those who don't understand how Penn State football operates, Joe Paterno, who has been the head coach for 46 years, is the absolute monarch of the program with absolute power. Regardless of whether he satisfied the bare minimum of legal requirements to report what he knew about the rape of children to his superiors, which as absolute monarch at Penn State, he really had none. He grossly failed to satisfy his ethical requirements to do everything in his power to ensure that Sandusky was immediately and absolutely severed from any relationship with Penn State. That's number one. Number two, the legal and other action was taken to prevent Sandusky from continuing to rape young boys. Everyone else at Penn State looked to Paterno as their monarch, and when he made it clear he was going to do the bare minimum legally required about this, they all followed his lead. That included allowing Sandusky to continue to exploit his relationship with Penn State to prey upon and rape more young boys. And I think if you look further into Penn State, it is connected with the government and Monarch programs.
It's incredible when the lid, was blown off of, not in mainstream media, of course, that's never the case, but still, I mean, the Franklin thing has been thoroughly exposed, by DeCamp and others that have come along since him. And yet, nothing has changed, folks. This stuff still goes on the same grand scale that it ever has in this country and other countries abroad. And so when you see this, I just can't believe that people aren't outraged and in an uproar over this. And how many more scandals need to be exposed like this before people realize the system is irretrievably lost? It is so completely corrupt, so thoroughly evil. There aren't even words strong enough to describe it. It's amazing, isn't it?
It is amazing, and I think the real key to unlocking it, well, first is 9/11. Because what needs to be done is expose the total corruption, utter corruption, the total bull, coming out of the mainstream media. It is just a total cover-up. The FBI is a cover-up agency. The media is a cover-up agency. The whole mainstream, or whatever you can call it, establishment is nothing but a cover-up agency for pedophiles, for murderers, for all kinds of massive criminality that's going on. It's just becoming more apparent now with Wall Street, and maybe when all the Americans lose all their retirement funds and they steal everything in sight, maybe then they'll wake up and become aware of all this stuff.
Well, you hope that comes before it's too damn late to do anything about it.
Well, you hope, but I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen. You can have hope. You can be optimistic. With the media under their control, I guess the key is to get people to wake up about the media, and I think the Penn State plus the 9/11 cover-ups by the media are the best way to do that.
Everything's been a cover-up. We never get the truth about anything in this country. And once again, folks, you allow elite Jew pigs to run your country, and what a surprise. Look what you get. Every time.
Yeah, well, this is a Judaized country. And Judaism is organized crime, so we basically have a country and a government run by organized crime.
Once again, guys, this is why they've been thrown out of so many countries in the past for doing the same damn thing that they're doing to us right now. People were fed up with their disgusting, perfidious immorality, their corrupting of people with their lies and their propaganda in the media, destroying their economy, taking away their jobs, the same exact crap. This is what brought on the Russian Revolution. Of course, the people were lied to there, thinking that this revolution was going to change things in a positive direction. They just got more of the same crap on a far grander scale.
Yeah, I agree, and it's not just the fact that they're stealing everything in sight and doing all kinds of criminal activity. I mean, wake up, people. They're poisoning your water, they're poisoning your food, they're poisoning your air. Wake the hell up.
Yeah. Absolutely. Hitting us from every angle. Every conceivable evil is being unleashed on us, and people are in denial.
Yeah, and, there are a few people like you speaking the truth on the Internet, and I guess that's our hope. That's our real hope.
Yeah, we don't need to wake up all the masses, just the right people.
Well, you need 10% approximately, and then it will take off like a wildfire. And again, the Jews know this, and that's why they're putting the police state in place.
Well, we just got to hope that we beat the bastards to the punch.
Well, we got them outnumbered 100 to 1, but they got a lot of technological tools. But anyways, that's all I wanted to say, and I like your show. Your show's great, and thanks you for what you do.
All right, thanks a lot, Bud, for the call.
Take care.
Yeah, guys, it's all connected. And the Penn State thing is massive. Of course, the media is covering that whole thing up. Damage control. But it's yet another one of these pedo rings, guys. You dig deeper, you find out it's interconnected with other networks around the country, just like Franklin, CIA fingerprints all over it, mind control, Monarch type programs interconnected with it, Satanist groups interconnected. Of course, the media will have you believe that, this stuff doesn't even exist. Satanism, they want you to believe, is an urban legend. Of course they want you to believe that, because they run all the satanic groups, all the child porn rings, all of the mind control programs. Of course they don't want you to think this stuff exists. Of course they're going to laugh and poo-poo the thing away. Anyway, I got another call, but I'm going to check during the break to see if the person actually wants to come on air. The way it's coming up, it looks like they might just be a listener, so I'll call her if you want to come on. Just hold on till the break, which actually is coming up in just another minute or so. Anyway, let's look at Monarch a little more closely here. As you know, a marionette is a puppet that is attached to strings and is controlled by the puppet master. Hence, Monarch programming is referred to often by researchers as the marionette syndrome, the puppeteer syndrome. It's the ultimate dream of a tyrant, to be able to control people just like a puppeteer controls his puppets by pulling their strings. That's what Monarch is all about, guys, and unfortunately that's what they've accomplished. They've been able to literally turn people into mindless robots. Imperial conditioning is another term used, while some mental health therapists know it as conditioned stimulus response sequences. And we'll talk some more about that, guys, when we get back. Stick with us. All right, guys, just a couple more points I wanted to cover, and then I want to go to a caller here. Just to finish up this one subsection here. Project Monarch could be best described as a form of structured disassociation and occultic integration. They're using scientific and esoteric techniques, occultic techniques, satanic techniques of mind control. Disassociation is the key. They get people to disassociate themselves. And again, this is accomplished most effectively through trauma-based abuse. And you literally, it creates like a space shot, like Sirhan. He was in the kitchen there when FDR, yeah. All these acronyms are getting me mixed up here. RFK, was being shot, and he did hold a gun, and it was the same type of gun that the actual assassin used. He did fire some bullets, but he fired them into the freaking ceiling. It didn't matter, guys. His job was not to do any killing. It was simply to be there and, to fire some random shots. None of his bullets connected with anybody in that room. They were fired into the ceiling. That's all he had to do. Just be there, fire a few shots, distract attention, and, we'll have the police go after, you, and that's what they did. Of course, he didn't know what he was doing. He was told to do this when he was in one of his, disassociated alter states. And, anyway, what it does is they compartmentalize the mind into multiple personalities with a systematic framework. They got it down to a science, so that when you come out of that personality, they give you your trigger word now to take you out of that personality, a trigger word to bring you into it, and then a counteracting trigger word or release word to bring you out of it. You have absolutely no recollection of what you did when you were that other personality. It's scary, guys, that the mind can be manipulated to do this, but it can, and it has been. Again, this is known since ancient times. During this process, a satanic ritual, usually including Jewish Kabbalistic mysticism, is performed with the purpose of attaching a particular, quote, demon or group of demons to the corresponding altar, or altars. And I'll go into this in more detail as we go along, but you can't divorce the satanic element from this thing. It's intimately connected, as we'll see. And so that's why when you talk about things like the Franklin cover-up, you'll see that the CIA involved along with satanic groups, because they both are engaged in the same type of trauma-based abuse to produce the kind of multiple personality syndrome that they need for this program. All right, guys, a short break, and I'll be bringing our caller on when we get back. Stick with us. All right, guys, welcome back. We got our caller on the line. You may recall a few weeks back, I had Natasha from Pennsylvania on, talking about a lot of the corruption. In fact, she's going to be calling in again on Friday to give us an update on what's been going on with that, the election results and some interesting revelations, things that have been happening. But anyway, you were calling in for today with some comments on the mind control factor, huh?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I had to. This is one of my, I guess, when I say favorite, I don't mean I favor it. I just mean it's my favorite topic to research, because there's so much. And I have to, say your other caller that spoke there, he was very eloquent. But
yeah, it was a great call.
Yeah, I'm from Pennsylvania, and the new motto for Penn State is State Penn. That's the new motto. Yeah, that honestly, when people are talking about Penn State, because Paterno was a god, and now he's in complete and utter disgrace. So they've turned the name around. So simple. Instead of Penn State, it's State Penn. I just sort of got a kick out of that. Unfortunately, young people have suffered. What I don't get is in excess of 23,000 children in this country alone go missing every year. And they find like 5, like they found Pamela Smart, if you remember that whole deal.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
They find like a couple, but 23,000 every year gone. Where are they going? They're obviously being indoctrinated into some sort of program. They have, or being used for sacrifices.
Oh, we know for a fact that's going on. That's one of the things that came out with the Franklin, research that DeCamp did.
Yeah.
Several kids were named by name that had, one was abducted. I think it was Des Moines, Iowa. And he turned out to have been involved in the Franklin thing. It was the CIA that abducted him. So yeah, that's why nothing ever comes of most of these investigations, because it's government orchestrated.
But where are these parents? That's one of the questions that I ask myself a lot. Where are these parents of these missing children? This should 23,000, and you might get 10 Amber alerts. Where are the parents or the people who are in charge of these children? Where are they?
Well, sometimes
I'd be on TV, radio, screaming like a maniac if somebody did something to my child.
As it turns out, and not with random, abductions off the street, no, but a lot of times, or at least several times that I know of, a lot of these kids are abducted or inducted into programs like MK Ultra and wind up being in porn and snuff films. With their parents having themselves been victims of the same program, and they actually willingly participate in this. They'll
like
actually,
Kathy O'Brien, yeah.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah, that's
and
so
the
sad.
military is intimately, as I'm sure you know, intimately involved in this. A lot of these kids are children of military. In fact, when I have my discussion on Hollywood, that's a whole separate Hollywood show. I've got several Hollywood shows coming up, but one of them deals with that aspect. A lot of these kids are Jim Morrison, for example, he was all screwed up. His father was, in the military. So, in fact, his father was involved in, what was it? I think of the Gulf of Tonkin incident, in covering that whole thing up.
Really?
Yeah.
I knew he was in the military. I had no idea that he was involved in that.
Actually, it's either that or the USS Liberty. I'm trying to think now. I forget. I got to check my notes again, but it was one of those two fiascos. But yeah, you'll
one, it was still bad,
Right. But you'll see this over and over again. the military. And we talked last week. I mentioned, Orford Base outside of Omaha there, where Bush hung out on 9/11. There's been a lot of child molestations going on there. That was connected with what's his name there, the founder of the Church of Set, the Temple of Set, Aquino, Thomas Aquino.
Oh, I'm not familiar with that name.
He was a student of Anton LaVey there.
Oh, well, there you go. Okay. Well, I'll throw a name at you and see if anybody even knows it. Otto von Bolschwig. Are you familiar with that? He was actually the angel of death. What was his Eichmann? He was Eichmann's right-hand man, but was actually above Eichmann. And this is a name that a lot of Americans are not familiar with at all. And I did in-depth research on this guy. They brought him over here through Project Paperclip, which you know about. Right. And when they brought him over, they got him involved in so many government agencies that he had too many connections and became extremely dangerous. And he was working in hospitals in Pennsylvania, one of the hospitals, well, two actually, Pennsylvania State University Hospital and Pennsylvania State Hospital. They're two separate hospitals. Pennsylvania State Hospital was known as Byberry, and it was a mental institution. And this Otto von Bolschwig was brought into the United States, given citizenship, given a house in Paraguay, also in Brazil, and in the United States. And he operated here until, I believe, the 70s. I think he passed away in the 70s. I'm not sure exactly the date, but I believe it was the 70s. And nobody seemed to have ever heard of this man, which is amazing because he had cryptic security. He could get in and out of any part of Washington. And this guy came over under Project Paperclip and was a high-ranking SS officer. But incidentally, another thing, Monarch. The name Monarch was used by the Nazis for a reason. Hitler's scientists, stop me if you know this part, I don't want to reiterate anything you've said, but they found out that when they were doing their scientific research, they found out that the monarch butterfly actually remembers where it came from. So it remembers its roots. So, for instance, if
they migrate.
Exactly, yes. They go back to where their parents were from, so to speak.
They'll fly hundreds, even thousands of miles like birds and come back to the same exact spot. Yeah.
So that was part of the reason that that was the reason they named Monarch, because of the children who had been ritualistically, sexually molested, incestually, for generations, and became parents and they molested their children and so on. They realized that this could also be happening in humans. And it was easy because they had these children, the molested children of generational molestation, had a 46% higher acuity rate than the normal child, which meant that they were 40% higher. They knew what was going on around them, 40% more, 46% more than other children, the average child. And that's an enormous amount. They knew what was going on behind them, around them. They knew the time without looking at a clock.
A lot of times this produces, genius. The brain has a bizarre way. We can talk about that, actually. When we get back, we're going to get cut off here. Stick with us, folks.
Okay.
All right, guys, welcome back. So, we still got Natasha on the line here. Like I was saying, she's going to come back on Friday and give us an update on how the election has turned out and what the results of standing up against the corruption down there has brought. You've got some interesting stuff to share. Looking forward to that.
Oh, absolutely. This could be any town in America, but the fact that Luzerne County, Pennsylvania, is the second most corrupt county in the nation, I think personally that people need to hear this because this stuff's going on in their area too, but they just may not know it.
Sure.
And, I'm going to I've opened a can of worms in this county that now is never going to be closed. And it's probably going to be bigger than the Penn State issue, Once I send you the information, you'll see what I mean. So maybe some Pennsylvania listeners will be sitting on the edge of their chair. I don't know. But you've gotten a lot of people from Pennsylvania listening to your show because
Excellent.
of these type things, Penn State and this issue here in Luzerne County. But yeah, I'm so glad you're doing an MK Ultra program. No, actually not a program, a show. Excuse me. You're not doing a program.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
No pun intended.
No, exactly, yeah. Wrong wording. But, definitely I want to listen to the Hollywood aspect because I researched that too, so I'm like, I can't wait to hear that one, that show.
Oh, yeah. Intimate connection.
Yeah, great job, Charlie. Keep up the good work. Really, you're fighting a good fight. Keep doing it. There's not a lot of us out there, and we just have to keep trying to educate.
Yeah, you're doing some good work down there yourself.
Yeah, I'm out there protesting every Saturday and every Tuesday, and going to committee meetings, and yeah, I'm moving around a lot these days.
Excellent. Yeah.
So
looking forward to Friday.
Yeah, I'm probably going to be dodging bullets real soon here. So.
Yeah, really.
But listen, great show, and I'll talk to you again on Friday.
Okay, you bet.
Okay, take care.
Take care. We'll see you then.
Bye-bye.
All right, guys. Yeah, looking forward to hearing what you'll be sharing on Friday. Crazy stuff going on down in PA, folks. Some of the biggest child porn rings in the country are actually being run down there, and that's why you see what's going on in Penn State or State Penn. Guys, it's all a part of this. This thing is big, it's massive, and as always, you watch, guys, they're going to cover the whole damn thing up. And your little elite Jew pig buddies involved in it are going to walk away scot-free. As always, they'll arrest a few low-level people, usually Gentiles. Maybe a low-level Jew here or there might get caught up in the dragnet, but the ones enthroned at the top, running the whole operation, and they'll contain it, so it looks like just a local thing there in Penn State itself, not involving, what the hell's the name of it now, that youth center there that Sandusky was a part of. That's all Jew-controlled, Jew-run, Jew-funded. Can't think of the name of it now, but that's all interconnected with this, guys. It was, it's the equivalent of the Boys Town facility in Nebraska, supplying the pedophile ring with young kids. And, of course, the college president himself, another Jew pig, he was involved in the cover-up of this whole damn thing. The psychiatrist that heads up that youth center is another Jew covering up the whole damn thing. It's unbelievable. Every time, guys, you'll see their hoof prints on everything like this. So coming back to Monarch, our discussion of Monarch here, let's look at, when I left off, I was talking about, the satanic element in all of this. Very often, a satanic ritual, usually including Jewish Kabbalistic mysticism, is performed with the purpose of attaching a particular demon or group of demons to the corresponding altar or altars. This makes the victim more prone to commit evil acts, when they attach this connotation of a, quote, demon to the thing. Get into that later. But anyway, let's look at altars and triggers in some more detail. The way Monarch works is much like how a complex computer program works. A file or altar is created through trauma, repetition, and reinforcement. In order to activate or trigger the file, a specific access code or password or Q command is required. It's scary, guys, but the brain literally can be, all their experimentation has proven that you can literally control the mind like a computer. Turn it off and turn it on when needed. And just like you can get the computer to perform any function you want according to how the program is set up, so it is with the human mind. Unfortunately, it's like clockwork, guys. When you restructure how the mind works through trauma, you blank the mind like a blank slate. You erase it, and then you write on that blank slate now what you want there. And you can do so without anybody knowing that this was done, because it's all done in the person's alternate personality. That's the blank slate. But the other person is still essentially intact. You bring them back into their normal personality, and not only does nobody else know what has been done, that person, him or herself, doesn't even know. Anyway, again, if you ever watched, what's his name, Jesse Ventura's conspiracy theory show, he did a whole show on this. He interviewed a guy who is known to have been and still is apparently, a Manchurian candidate. And in the course of the interview, he told him, he says, as far as I know, I'm not still working for them. The last time was a few years ago. I disappeared for several days, and all I know about my whereabouts is a plane ticket stub I found. They sent me to, I forget, one of the Caribbean islands or something. And I was there for like 3 or 4 days, so he says, I'm assuming that they sent me there to kill somebody. But I have no recollection of, what I did there, nothing. They probably called him, used a trigger word, instantly he went into the other, alternate personality. He was told to go to such and such a place, maybe, to his post office box, and there'll be an unmarked envelope. Open it up. You'll see a plane ticket in there. You have to board that plane, blah, 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 blah. And then after completion of his mission, probably the time that he arrived home, he would get another phone call to bring him out of that alternate. Anyway, the victim or survivor of the program that they're creating an alternate with is called a slave, surprisingly, by the programmer or handler, who in turn is perceived as master or even God. Sometimes they'll have themselves addressed, with those titles. So disgusting. About 75% of these victims, as it turns out, over the years have been females, since they possess a higher tolerance for pain and tend to disassociate easier than males. Pick up then we get back, guys. Stick with us. All right, guys, welcome back. Got another caller on the line. I'll go to him in just a minute. Just wanted to mention, guys, disassociation. There's different levels of disassociation. Daydreaming is actually a mild form of disassociation. Anytime your mind wanders and you're not really paying attention to what's going on around you, you might be conscious of what's going on, but it's not a part of your present reality. Your mind is, quote, elsewhere. You got that blank stare on your face, and someone might say, snap out of it. Where are you? Literally. When they say that, they want you to literally snap out of it. Your mind is in a different realm. In extreme forms, and that's what you get with the Monarch program, you're able to control that person's disassociation when they're in that otherworldly state of mind. On an extreme level, to the point where they can't come out of it until the trigger word is used. They are literally another person, another personality, entirely different from, their regular, normal personality. And it's a process by where the brain, the way they create this extreme form of disassociation, the brain is subjected to such severe trauma, or the body is so traumatized that the brain, in order to prevent heart attack or stroke or something, the brain will go into this protection mode in order to handle the severe trauma. It'll separate from reality so that you can handle this without, going into cardiac arrest. You'll go into this alternate state of personality or safe mode. And thus, you literally develop another personality, a bipolar, schizophrenic personality. From there, a technique is utilized, such as hypnosis, to tap into the alternate personality at will without the person's normal conscious mind perceiving it. And once you tap into that personality, now you begin to program messages, ideas, concepts, a new set of moral standards that the normal personality doesn't embrace. And so you can get that person, and that's why you have this, demon association thing going on. So now you get them to associate themselves with something evil, something demonic, so that when they're in that other personality, you literally are disassociated to the point where you're not the person you ordinarily are. You have a whole different set of morals, a whole different code of conduct. So now you can be persuaded to do literally something you never otherwise would do. This is way beyond mere hypnosis, folks. This is literally the creation of another personality. The average person that hasn't been subjected to trauma abuse or isn't familiar with trauma abuse has no, conception of this idea at all. How could someone be made to do something like that? It's not you. It's somebody else. It's another personality that they have created that very often the victim isn't even aware of. Anyway, let's go to Dave in Florida. How's it going, Dave?
Hi. How are you, Charles?
Not too bad. How about yourself?
I wanted to mention two things briefly. First one is that television, as it stands today, and I don't know if this was the objective and purpose of television from the start, but probably it was. But there's a useful technique in media or in broadcasting that basically mimics or mirrors exactly what you've been talking about today, and it's done on an unbeknownst, unknowing public every time they turn on that television and sit before it for at least 15 minutes. And it has to do, of course, with the technology of the actual broadcast wave, especially now in so-called high definition. But it's not only the technology, but it's also in how all programming is presented. And in particular, and the second point is there's a show, and I think I mentioned this a few months ago when I called in, about a show called Fringe, Fringe. And everything that you talked about from the professor / Dr. Gottlieb, supposedly one of the originators of this whole Monarch programming, is presented in this television show, but it's presented to the public like Monarch is fun, Monarch is good, and that's how they're presenting it, but they're cloaking it in science fiction / cop drama, because they have to have a cop drama. That's part of the programming. So it's a cop show, special fringe division of the FBI, and they investigate certain cases. And if you, in that show, now mind you, I don't have television, but this is all online, the show supposedly investigates these cases. Now, the woman is female, is the head agent, and she investigates cases, and every single one of these cases leads back to this professor who conveniently is just like this Gottlieb character, or that doctor you talked about earlier in this series. Yeah. And he supposedly is trying to fix all the wrongs of his experiments on mind control. Now, mind you, the protagonist of the show, a female, was one of the victims. She was supposedly traumatized with drug therapy, but they never tell you about anything else, like the sexual trauma. It's not even implied, but you kind of get it if you read the language of the show. And everything that you just mentioned is used in that. And then the most nefarious thing that they do, when the show is on, each time they cut away to a commercial, the screen goes black, and there's an image. It's usually a butterfly or some other image, and it's right in the middle of the screen with a small light on it. And then there's a tone. What's that all about? And this is done every time that show comes on, but again, it's presented as if, they hide the Monarch program, they're telling you about it, but they're presenting it as if it was a good thing, and then they're also programming the people watching this show. That's something that you might want to check out, see exactly what they're doing. It's very nefarious.
Well, I'll tell you, there's so many things going on. This is another whole topic all its own, but a lot of the emissions coming off the TV screen, especially now with a lot of the flat screen
the LED,
TV.
the LCD.
Yeah, I'm trying to think, what the hell do they call it? Blu-ray, and on and on and on. They're actually emitting alpha and beta waves, and this is why the government was offering people government subsidized assistance if you want to modernize your TV and go digital. There was this big push, to get everybody to go digital. Yeah, they want it for a reason, because in addition to the crap that's actually coming over the airwaves or through your cable, the actual programming itself, there's also subtle, ELF, electromagnetic radiation involved.
Right, and it automatically takes the brain to a theta state, a theta wave state. And that's just a given. And they know that already in the programming, but it induces what you mentioned, an automatic daydream state. Now, if you're watching television, it's not constant, it's an off and on thing, but if you're watching any kind of broadcast and you're going into that daydream state where you're not there for moments at a time, what is exactly going on during those moments at a time?
And if anybody doubts this, let me just mention really quick, it's a known fact that people who have epilepsy are warned to stay away from, or at least not to view monitors for long periods of time, computer or TV monitors, because they can induce a seizure. Just to show you the effects that, these things have on the brain. It's not fantasy, it's reality, folks. They've learned to tap into that effect on the brain and use it in a way that can augment the propaganda that they're spewing at you. Anyway, sorry, go ahead, Dave.
Yes, and what you were mentioning about that daydream state, and I'm going to get that author's name. I'll email it to you, or before you finish your series this week, I'll get that author's name for you. He basically detailed how during those catatonic states, those brief periods or seizures, we always think of a seizure as a wild fit with the tongue hanging out of the mouth and saliva. A seizure, can be grand mal seizure. It can be a seizure where you just stop. Right, exactly. So what we don't think about when we think of such things is ourselves. We think of an epileptic, but everyone has some type of mild form of this where the brain goes into this brief state where you can actually do anything to it. And that's where I think... Disassociation, exactly. So everyone's going through some type of trauma. We don't realize that trauma, you don't necessarily have to hit someone or give someone certain types of psychotropic drugs or sexually abuse them. You can traumatize them through imagery, constant bombardment of imagery, whether you see it, hear it, feel it. You can use chemicals through the food to create trauma, induce trauma. Excess sugar in the body creates a traumatic state to various organs. So that's all you need. Now, if that's being done, and it is, in a particular period of time during that programming, what can you do to the mind is the question. And I think a lot of things are done to the mind. Just getting you to buy things minimum. But what else, because you're creating sleeper cells, if you will, or those people you mentioned where you say a trigger word or trigger thing.
Right. We got a break coming in, Dave. Hold that thought. All right, guys, welcome back. The main point Dave is driving home here, and this is so important, is, when you turn on the boob tube, folks, you're being a victim of MK Ultra mind control without even realizing it. It's total mind manipulation. And that's why they use it so much in Hollywood, because they know that Hollywood personnel have a powerful influence on people. People look up to, their favorite actors and actresses as idols, and they want to emulate what they see them doing. And so they want to control them and thereby control you. Get them to do things they ordinarily wouldn't do, necessarily. To get them into this disassociated state so that they can, look at some of the hideous things, music performers too, music entertainers. some of the hideous things that people like Lady Gaga do. I'm not defending Lady Gaga, but folks, a lot of times she doesn't know what the hell she's doing. When she's engaged in these hideous practices on stage, vampiric type of imagery, that's not even her. It's her altar. They can get her to do these sick things that no sane person would ever do because she's in that alternate state. And then in doing that, she is manipulating you, or they're manipulating you through her, I should say. So you're becoming a victim of MK Ultra mind control without even realizing it. And don't say it doesn't have an effect, folks. It does. Just look at society, how much it's changed over the past couple of decades. You know, you can't leave your house unlocked when you go down to the corner store to get a gallon of milk. You know, your kids are disrespectful. They mouth off. They swear at parents. Remember the days when you'd get whacked across the mouth if you ever swore at your parents? Now parents laugh at it. It's no big deal. Look how much things have changed, and you can thank the media for all, especially the entertainment media, for 99.9% of that. It's no accident that, you know, society has gone down the toilet at the same time that our media is portraying all kinds of filth and vulgarity. There's a direct correlation there, obviously, right, Dave?
That's right. I was mentioning during your break about all of your broadcasts and how they tie in, but primarily this is probably one of the most important topics, if not the important topic, to tell your public and tell your audience how they're being controlled and how those who are in control, how they stay in control. This is one of the methods of many, but probably the most important one that's been used even before technologies have come to the point where they are today. And I think that this is old stuff, but, you know, that's another topic. But the use of, you mentioned music, and it's really ironic you were mentioning that because I was just thinking about nightclubs and music and how that, or what they call, I guess they call them discos or nightclubs, how they use trance, techno music of a certain type of beat. It's not even music. It's all machine generated or computer generated, but how it's all done, you filter that with the alcohol that's served up or sold. You put together that with the smoke and anything else that they can throw in there, and of course the drugs that are slipped in. You have, again, another population that you can control. So all these various ways using the same techniques of MK Ultra type mind control, but in the different mediums. So music, visuals, food, because everyone's got to eat. So they do all of these things together to get the job done. But it's that one thing that you mentioned about that daydream state, that little seizure that everyone shares. And you have to wonder what is slipped in during the times of that daydream state and how
you're not even aware of it. Yeah.
Not aware at all.
They don't call it programming for nothing. Literally. They're right in your face. They're telling you what's going on. It's like, you know, human resources. They're telling you right in your face you're an exploitable commodity. Programming. They're programming you.
Yeah. They tell you in accounting class what that's about. You know, the workers or the employees, you're a line item on there. So if you're just a line item, you know it can happen to a line item. So, you know, that's what you do on a farm with cattle, with a herd. That's what you do with in your accounting or business dealings of numbers and things that you're collecting or using for a particular purpose. There's no hiding of that information. So if it's in our faces and we still aren't doing anything about it or feeling anything about it, one has to wonder what keeps a person or a group of people or a population from accepting something that's so egregious and outrageous and living normally.
And they were doing this. They were doing this right from the beginning, going back to the 1950s with seemingly innocent shows like Lucille Ball. I pointed this out before. And I'm not saying Lucille Ball herself was evil. She doesn't know. She's just reading off of a script. But the script writers knew exactly what they were doing. Every single show, pretty much, in that series was about Lucille deceiving her husband, doing, you know, seemingly harmless, innocent things, but, you know, things that she was doing behind her husband's back. She would go against what he said, and, you know, there was no collusion between them, working things out, talking things over. She would just sneak behind his back. And, oh, isn't that funny? Isn't that cute? But what it was doing was prepping women for what followed the next decade, the sexual revolution, feminism, women breaking away from their husbands, becoming independent. It's all about breaking up the family. Guys, look what the hell's been going on here. It's far more obvious now than it was then, but they were setting the precedent way back then, subtly programming you through the television programming, changing, and it worked brilliantly, unfortunately.
Well, just like you mentioned, when you're being programmed, you only hide the language that you know. For instance, we have computers. The hidden language would be the actual language that the machine understands, that comes in through us. But we see the graphical user interface, as they call it. The same thing with that show, Lucille Ball. It was called the Lucille Ball Show, or I Love Lucy Show. It had nothing to do with Ricky Ricardo, her husband. I guess that was his name.
Right.
Had nothing to do with him. She was basically a single woman. And that's what they were telling you. You are independent of your family. You are independent of your mate. That was the programming. You didn't need the technology. The technology took care of itself. It was the message in the medium. And you know what a medium is. But
right.
The whole idea of having the programming right there, including the name in front of your face, is part of the programming in itself. To hide in plain sight. Nothing to hide. But the true hidden language is what we're missing out on. And we have to wonder why we are missing out on it when it's right in front of us.
And it's the most effective way to influence people. You don't come out and tell people, hey, don't listen to your husband. Go out and do things on your own and become independent. No, you portray it in a show, and you have it portrayed by someone that cracks jokes and gets you laughing and makes you feel good. And before you know it, that lifestyle, which you ordinarily wouldn't have even thought of engaging in, now it becomes appealing. It's acceptable, it's appealing, and before you know it, everybody's emulating it. They want to do it. And now families start falling apart, society goes straight to hell.
Which leads me to my last point about how you frivolize, is that the word? Trivialize something and make it frivolous on the surface. And this is what, you mentioned Lucy, and with that television show Fringe, which is when you see it, it truly is in your face. I mean, they might have just called it MK Ultra, but they call it Fringe, and Fringe means on the edge of something or part of something,
Yeah, I'll have to look into that. I wasn't aware of that one.
Yeah, and the woman, they do some flashbacks of her as a child being traumatized, and there's a twin who lives in a different dimension. You see how they cloak that disassociation in sci-fi? There's an actual doppelganger, and she's her evil side, but she's not so evil. She's just more astute. She's like the side that didn't get caught, but broke apart and became independent, and it's a separate dimension. They call it a dimension, and a literal world just like our Earth, and two worlds trying to collide. And so she's this FBI agent. They're both agents. There's just two types of FBIs, one in that world, one in this world. But it's the same woman, and people don't get it. We're not talking sci-fi. We're talking about a reality of a split personality, if you will, and it's right there in the show, and it's MK Ultra. That's why I said they might as well call it MK Ultra, but they call it Fringe. It's like right teetering on the edge. It's called Fringe. Check that thing out. It's nefarious. Watch it with the mind that you have, not with the mind that most people have, which is kind of like a sheep state where they'll take the programming on and anything can happen. You watch it when you know what's going on and what you realize.
When I watch TV, like I'll sit down with my girlfriend and watch some of her shows. I'm doing it totally with the purpose of seeing, okay, what kind of crap are they trying to pawn off on us? That's the only reason I ever watch these darn stupid things.
Exactly.
I never watch it on my own, though. I can't stand TV. It's crap.
All right.
Hey, thanks a lot for the call, Dave. Good stuff.
Oh, you're welcome. Take care.
Okay. Have a good one, folks. We'll pick up with this tomorrow. We'll see you then. All right, everybody. Happy Tuesday. Picking up with our discussion from yesterday. Project Monarch. Something we particularly want to pay attention to because out of all of these psychopathic mind control experimentation programs, this has been the one that has gotten the most focus. One that we can say with certainty is still being used. The MK Ultra mind control program in general is still under use, but this one here pops up everywhere. Clear, indisputable, instances of it, indications of it being used pop up all over the place, and as I'll be demonstrating, I think that's the next topic I'm going to take up after this. We're going to look at some very specific examples of it in Hollywood, amongst entertainers, not only actors and actresses, but music entertainers, and in fact, especially in the music world, even more so than among actors. But it's pervasive. It's across the board. The things they do, the way they act, the symbols that you'll see emblazoned on their clothing and their tattoos, their face paintings, themes during rock concerts, on their albums, themes in their songs, everywhere. MK Ultra related, MK Ultra / occult related, because remember, in the process of their programming, they very often employ satanic symbology, overtones, rituals. The CIA works together with Satanist groups. This is thoroughly, unquestionably, irrefutably documented. We've already looked at some examples when we talked about, the Franklin scandal. Satanism pops up constantly. Official documents that have been seized during investigations, the ones that managed to slip through the cracks and weren't, scooped up by the FBI and destroyed. Enough of this documentation has surfaced to show that every single time the CIA's fingerprints are right there, alongside Satanist group involvement in these pedo rings and the snuff films, the abuses that it's so friggin' disgusting! But every time, guys, you'll see this crap interwoven. They're inseparable. And, of course, when I talk specifically about the New Age movement, Satanism, and so forth, you'll see where it all leads, where everything always leads that's corrupt, evil, and filthy, and disgusting, and degrading. It always leads to the cloven-hoofed ones. Anyway, subjects of the... or should I say, victims of the Project Monarch program. Got a break coming in, guys. I'll pick up that when we get back. Stay with us. All right, guys. So, as I started to say before the break, subjects or victims, we should more appropriately call them, are used mainly for covert operations, assassinations, spying, whatever. A lot of times they'll use these people for provocateur. A lot of times they don't even have to engage in killing anybody. They just have to be there. They'll set them up, like Sirhan Sirhan is a perfect example, guys. He didn't kill anybody. He wasn't intended to. He was just the fall guy. He just needed to be there, fire a gun, at the ceiling. And there you go. There's your scapegoat. All the evidence obviously pointed away from him. And, the deadly shot came from the rear, not from the front of RFK. But that didn't matter. They don't care about that because their minions, they know, are always going to cover up that. And even if it leaks out again, it doesn't matter. They just continue to stick with the BS story. And it doesn't matter that people find out the truth. They don't care. Look at 9/11. How many people now are aware? Millions just in this country know that 9/11 was a fraud. know that the official story is impossible. But it doesn't matter. They keep sticking with that story because they control the avenues of public information. And over time, their policy is, it doesn't matter. Over time, these people will disappear. Over time, they'll crawl under a rock, and, pretty soon people will forget about it. They'll move on. We'll continue to tout this, and sooner or later, opposition will subside, and the history books will always reflect our bullshit. So anyway, that's how they do it, guys. A lot of times, when they train someone to be an assassin, they don't have to necessarily kill anybody. Just be there. Anyway, but, that's an example of the type of covert purposes they use these people for. Provocateurs, they'll send them to go screw up a protest, either by infiltrating the protesters, moving within their ranks, and like they did with the WTO protests in 1999 in Seattle, the Black Bloc group came in with ski masks and started smashing storefront windows, smashing windshields on cars. The police were told, of course, not to intervene. Don't break ranks. Guarding the hotel from our pieces of crap billionaire guests. Don't answer the phone calls of people having their property damaged from these scumbags that you're going to later reward with free housing through HUD. It's unbelievable, guys. But a lot of times, not that they were MK Ultra. They didn't have to be because they paid them. They gave them free housing. But a lot of times, people that do work like that, they are MK Ultra. Or, they'll just have the police sabotage a protest, like what they've done with a lot of the Occupy things. It's interesting to sit back and watch how that plays out, by the way. I was talking with a friend about that last night. They try to manipulate it. Well, to a large degree, they created it. They funded the whole damn thing. But, they know that inevitably a lot of people are going to show up that do know what's going on and are going to name names, the Jews, the Zionists, whatever. And so they anticipate that. So they have all kinds of backup plans. Okay, if these people show up, well, we'll just sabotage the whole thing. We'll send provocateurs in, or we'll just have the police tear gas them, whatever. And ultimately, if they realize, oh, wow, this thing is swaying totally in the wrong direction, it's not going the way that we had planned, then they'll just shut it down. And so that's why you see, perfect excuse, oh, well, we need to clean up the park. Sorry, you got to go. They're doing it in New York. They've done it in Boston. Come up with all kinds of phony pretexts just to get rid of them. Okay, hey, we can't control this thing the way we were hoping. It's not turning out the way we wanted. We're not getting riots. They're not retaliating against our provocateurs, tear gassing them, blah, blah, blah. So we'll just shut it down. You see how it works, guys? What a bunch of friggin' crap. Any sincere ones out there that do understand who the enemy is and want genuine change, I hope they're not dissuaded by any of this. I hope they're going to continue. There does need to be massive protests and uprisings, but directed at the right people. Educated protesters. That's what we need. Educated demonstrators. But anyway, that's one of the usages they put their victims to for the Monarch program. Covert operations of various sorts. They also use them, as you might guess, for their little prostitution escapades. Especially child prostitution. That's great blackmail material for politicians to keep them compliant. And if they're not into pedophilia, and a great many are, well, if they're secretly gay, we'll get them a gay partner. If they're heterosexual, but, don't have that much of a conscience, or if they do, we'll try to weaken it by getting them drunk and having our female prostitutes come on to them strongly, whatever. We'll catch them on film, unbeknownst to them, with our Monarch-controlled minions, and that'll keep them compliant. They're also used, of course, for pornography. Again, for the most part, child pornography. They're also used in snuff films. Very often they plan to kill them anyway, so why not kill them and get a little entertainment value out of it? Psychopathic pieces of shit. Anyway, as I said, involvement in the entertainment industry is particularly notable, as I'll be going into when I finish these notes. We'll be looking at Hollywood and some very specific examples where you can see Monarch has been and is still being used. Lady Gaga, I got quite a few interesting links yesterday from a listener. I knew she was a prime example, but I got some stuff sent to me yesterday I hadn't even seen before. Yeah, just Google Lady Gaga or go on YouTube and search for Lady Gaga along with, Illuminati or Lady Gaga All-Seeing Eye. You won't believe how many videos pop up constantly. That little Monarch mind control victim is seen over and over again in her videos and her public appearances, covering one eye and giving you a bizarre stare with the other one. Or she likes to make that little peace sign over one eye, which really represents the way she does it. It looks like the peace sign, but she's really making the symbol of the Eye of Horus. Very big amongst elite Jew pigs and their, little secret societies like Freemasonry guys. They love that stuff. It's the same eye, of course, above the pyramid on the back of the $1 bill. All right, guys, short break, right back. All right, guys, welcome back. Guys, this explains, in fact, it's the only way to explain why you see so many bizarre happenings in Hollywood, why Hollywood personnel, whether they're actors, music entertainers, whatever, why they act so weird, do so many bizarre things, dress so strangely, engage in so many screwy antics on stage. That's why. Their minds are gone. From very early on, they were MK Ultra. It was seen that they had talent. Ooh, we can exploit that. But we want to direct it in a direction that we want it to go. We want to be able to use that talent. They know that the mindless drone masses rally behind their Hollywood heroes. Again, be they actors, musical entertainers, it doesn't matter. People idolize them and they tend to emulate what they see them do, so they want to have complete control over what they do, over how they dress, how they act, the kind of philosophy that they pawn off on the public. They want to have complete control over that, and the only way to do it is to MK Ultra them, so they can get them to do things they otherwise never would do. Even the trashiest of the trash aren't trashy enough for the trash that runs Hollywood. So they want to be able to maximize the negative effects they have on society by having them completely in a coma. And again, what better example of that than Gaga? Just look at her, guys. She's one screwed chick. That is one mentally defective broad. And, as much as I can't stand her, I kind of feel bad for her. I really do. I don't even know if she knows what the hell she's doing half the time. She is so freaking spaced out. And it's not drugs that does this. That's the explanation they always give. Oh, no doubt some of them do drugs and drink and, whatnot. But they do that to cope with how screwed up their mind is. They can't handle life. Look at Charlie Sheen. I wonder if he's been MK Ultra, the way he drinks. And he's totally gone. He's shot. Of course, booze alone will do that to you. But why do they drink? Sometimes it's simply because they can't handle, being in the spotlight. It's just too much for them. They get this godlike mentality and it drives them crazy. That alone will do it to you. Or to some people. But not all. A lot of people, they're able to handle it. Let me look at the old-time actors. Jimmy Stewart, very decent man, family man, or maybe not Jimmy Stewart, but I think he had a few problems himself. But, there were some that were respectable. They were family men. They were, who was it? Roy Rogers and Dale Evans there. You know, what a lot of the old-time actors, at least the ones that weren't Jews, you know, they were decent. They set good examples. I mean, even Michael Landon, I have to say, who was Jewish, but I mean, he was a decent guy. I don't think he was an elite Jew pig scumbag. I think he did actually run off on his wife, though, didn't he, if I remember right? But, you know, at least in his shows, guys, he did portray, you know, wholesome moral standards years ago. You know, he always had a good moral theme in each of his shows, something that you walked away with, you know, that you could, you know, that would better your life if you applied the lesson that you learned. You know, those days are gone, man. They're long gone. Anyway, but there's one good example of what we're talking about. And, you know, when I do that show, I'll cite, you know, not that her use of the all-seeing eye is proof that she's MK Ultra. No, there's a lot of other indications of that. But that's all part of it. You know, once they get them mind controlled, now they can push all this other crap, particularly occultism. But, you know, just look at the crazy things they do, like Britney Spears. She's another example. You know, when she shaved her head, she actually had a Star of David tattoo on her scalp. She probably didn't even know she had it. It might have been done early on when she was a kid, and they were torturing the living crap out of her. Mel Gibson is well aware of this. He's tried to help a lot of these young kids. He knows what goes on. He knows all too well. He knows about the little conspiracy for world government. He knows about the elite Jew pig factor. Unfortunately, you know, he got drunk, or they got him drunk, and he mouthed off, you know, in such a way that they've used that against him now, and it's pretty sad. He could be a great voice for exposing a lot of Hollywood stuff, but they've significantly discredited him, you know, setting him up. But he's very much aware of the MK Ultra factor in Hollywood. And like I said, the pedo factor in Hollywood, guys, is absolutely pervasive. Several Hollywooders over the years who have been victimized by it themselves have spoken out. I'll talk about that on future shows as well. But anyway, there's a lot going on there, guys. It's a cesspool of filth and corruption. And it stems not from the entertainers themselves, even though a lot of times, you know, you'll see them engaging in a lot of vulgar activities, but it doesn't stem from them. That's just an outgrowth of something much bigger going on behind the scenes. It stems from the producers themselves. The elite Jew pig producers. Oh no, wait, excuse me. The Arab producers in Hollywood. I'm never going to stop harping on that one, guys. It's one of the most ridiculous statements I've seen come out of a talk show host. What a fraud. Oh, yeah, he really did his homework on that one. Obviously, he was lying. There's no possible way that scoundrel, you know who I'm talking about. I'll do a show on him sometime exposing why he says the things like that he does. And he doesn't have to be monarched to come up with crap like that. His control mechanism is in his back pocket, if you know what I mean. No one really knows for sure how many people have been subjected to Monarch or to MK Ultra for that matter. But, you know, Clinton, as I mentioned last week, admitted that at least 100,000 Americans were subjected to radiation experiments without their knowledge or consent. And a good part of that was, you know, MK Ultra. They were using radiation for mind control purposes and testing the effects on the brain and whatnot. That's just that one aspect, though. It's in the millions. And, of course, it still goes on today, so the number continues to rise. There's no way of getting a handle on this. And we certainly will never probably know how many in the past, back in the heart of MK Ultra, when it began, because all those documents have been destroyed. But you can bet, guys, it's in the millions. And a lot of them are still walking around to this day, you know, are still being sent through the grist mill. How disgusting. Anyway, victims of MK Ultra and Monarch and other similar programs come from all walks of life. Even Jews, guys. They even suck off of their own. Anyway, from the bum on the street to the upper crust strata of society, there's no, particular group that this has been endemic to. They have targeted all people from all walks of life. Sometimes such individuals have been used as, plants or chameleons, for the purpose of infiltrating a designated group, gathering information, or injecting an ulterior agenda within the group, part of COINTELPRO, for example, which is very much alive today as well. All right, guys, short break. Be right back. Already into the second hour here. I want to move along because I don't want to drag this show on for too long. I get into some other important topics. Basically, this is an introduction to some deeper stuff I want to be getting into. But anyway, let's take a look at a few of the images and themes prominently used to assist in programming victims, and used by victims themselves. Icons, symbols that you'll see on clothing lines, various performers, will put out their clothing lines and they'll have symbols on them, and all of this stuff harkening back to Monarch. These symbols and themes are often used to enhance programming in various ways. For example, the victim might be told that if he or she feels troubled, carrying an image of a flower can bring them comfort, or the sword image can provide strength. And so they'll use this during programming. And they'll have them carry this, or it might be emblazoned on their clothes, to accentuate the programming, to bring out, what it is they want them to do. For example, Kissinger would use this stuff. There's been a couple people that were taken to Bohemian Grove by that scumbag, and they told the story how, on the way to the Grove, they were heavily sedated. They were drugged. They were being brought there for, prostitution purposes. And Kissinger would say something like, don't worry, if you get upset while you're at the Grove, just look at the owl. The owl will comfort you. You will feel better if you look at the owl. So, this is the kind of thing they'll do. A lot of the people they bring there have been MK Ultra, so for that purpose. Anyway, one of the symbols that's very commonly used in MK Ultra programming / Monarch programming, aside from the butterfly, which I've already mentioned, is trees, particularly the Kabbalistic tree of life symbol with adjoining root systems. And you'll see this, guys, in a lot of corporate logos as well. I got a whole show coming up just on that. The occult aspect of corporate logos. Well, that shouldn't be a surprise, should it, when you realize that the big multinationals are run by elite Jew scum. So naturally, you're going to see Kabbalistic, occultic symbols all over the place. Infinity loops, particularly the snake, the swirl where the snake is biting its tail. I'll be talking about that more on future shows. You'll see a lot of usages of ancient symbols, ancient letters, spider webs, mirrors, and glass shattering is a common theme in a lot of music videos. Again, the mirror is very big with Monarch programming. The idea of mirroring a person's personality, the split personality thing. Anyway, guys, short break. Be right back. All right, everybody, welcome back. So, a few more examples of themes that are pervasive, amongst Monarch victims or are used with Monarch training. The imagery of masks, for the same reason, that they use mirrors. Masks, having two faces, two personalities. They love this stuff. Castles. When I do my show on Hollywood, guys, I'll be talking about that. A lot of imagery of castles, appears in a lot of, music videos. They use the idea of a castle, they create the mental imagery of a castle in victims' minds, that you can flee to your castle, a stronghold, place of refuge that you can flee to. If you're troubled when you're on a mission, and so in their mind, that's what they do. The mind, under duress, if they're tortured, for example, go into your castle so they can, disassociate and more easily manage the stress. And so a lot of the MK Ultra and, Monarch victims, although shattered, they have memories, guys, of what was done to them. A lot of times they try to erase that, but inevitably some of it remains or some of it returns years later. And so they play this imagery, and people who don't understand the Monarch program, they'll watch these videos. They'll have no clue what the hell's going on, what the purpose is, what the message is. But when you understand the Monarch program and you watch these videos, it's like, oh my God, it tells the whole damn story. Mazes are used as well. Demons, of course, I mentioned that yesterday. Monsters, aliens, seashells, and of course butterflies. Snakes, ribbons, bows, flowers. A lot of times you'll see these things all together. They use it with, a lot of commercials oriented toward kids, advertising kid toys. They'll put it on kids' toys. The rainbow, which is also a powerful occult symbol as well. Parents see this and they think, oh, isn't that cute? Thinking it's so harmless. There's a lot of deep hidden messages. And not that, little kids are going to understand that, but they're prepping them at an early age, getting them exposed to these occult themes, guys. And they're also telling you what's really going on. A lot of people, of course, don't know because they don't understand the program. But once you become familiar with it, you'll realize they're sending you a message. Yeah, we got this one too. And we're manipulating you through they love it. They love putting it right in your face without you even knowing what they're doing. Just like when they make, at concerts, a lot of musicians will make the devil's hand sign. And, right in your face. Even televangelists do it all the time. I've seen Pat Robertson right in the middle of a prayer. Lord, I beseech you in the name of Jesus. And as he's saying Lord, he's making the sign of Baphomet, the two-horned god. Unbelievable. He's telling you right there on national television that the Lord he's addressing is Lucifer. And again, whether you believe there's a Lucifer or not isn't the point. They believe it. And so they're worshiping right in your face an evil deity. Of course, Yahweh's an evil deity too, isn't he? But, this is far more blatantly evil. While they, are professing to worship a good deity, they're worshiping an evil deity. It's so twisted. Anyway, some more symbology. The hourglass, clocks, robots, and, look at the psychology going on there. They want to make you their robot, so naturally they're going to use the robot theme. You name it, it goes on and on. Anyway, so, these are used in the process of programming, and so you'll see this popping up over and over, and I'll give some examples of that, when I get to that topic. Probably not till next week. By the way, obviously, I'm going to be taking Thursday off. just so you know. Probably most of you won't be tuning in anyway, but I'll put the show on repeat. I'll be doing a show tomorrow, but take Thursday off. I'll be back Friday. Anyway, let's look at the selection process for Monarch victims. A majority of the victims come from multi-generational satanic families involved in Satanism. And they're ostensibly programmed, quote, to fill their destiny as the chosen ones or chosen generation. Very often you'll see in satanic groups, they'll make reference to that word. A lot of cults will do that. And, there's a good reason, guys, because these damn things are created by elite Jew pigs. So naturally they're going to use terms that elite Jew pigs use to refer to themselves, whether they know it or not. That's another reflection on their Judaic origins. Sometimes these people are adopted into families, satanic covens, if you will, and they're used for that purpose. Other times, they'll have what are called breeders. They'll become impregnated during some ritualistic sex orgy, and the baby that results will be born privately, not in a hospital, so there's no record of their birth. Nobody even knows outside the coven that the baby exists. And they'll either sacrifice it as a baby, or they'll wait till the child's older. They'll use it in sex rings, and then kill the kid in a snuff film. This is so freaking unbelievable. But guys, it goes on a whopping massive scale. Anyway, others used in this neurological nightmare, Monarch program, are deemed as the expendable ones, usually coming from orphanages, foster care homes, or incestuous families with a long history of pedophilia. You got a lot of that in the military, as I said. A lot of kids that are brought into the Monarch program, folks, are recruited by their own parents because they themselves were inducted into this as young kids. And so, yeah, they bring their kids, and you won't believe how many victims of, pedophilia rings have been brought in by their parents. And very often those parents, again, are in the military, high-level military. It's unbelievable. There also appears to be a pattern of family members affiliated with government or military intelligence agencies. Well, yeah, of course. I've already brought that out. The CIA is heavily involved in this crap. Defense intelligence, on and on. Anyway, guys, we got a break coming in. Pick up then when we get back. All right, guys, welcome back. Here's an interesting aspect of this discussion. Any of the victims, of Monarch-type programs actually come from families who use Catholicism, Mormonism, or charismatic Christianity as a front for their abominable activities. And other various religious organizations too, but quite a few use these major churches as a cover. So, they'll act like they're members. They'll show up week after week, so no one will suspect them of what they're doing. I remember, I think it was about a year ago, I saw some twisted, bizarre exorcism-type film. I think it was one of those Emily Rose movies or something. I don't know. It was about this minister who supposedly travels around the country performing exorcisms. And this one particular case involved this young teenage girl, and, at first he thought that she was doing it for attention, but then it started getting crazier and crazier. Then he thought that she was a victim of abuse by her father. But then that didn't turn out to be true, and he's intrigued. What's the story with this girl? Why is she so messed up? And the way the story ended, it turns out that a local church, the minister was a high satanic priest posing as a Christian minister, and he was recruiting young kids. This girl was his latest victim. And, at the end of the movie, the guy, the exorcist guy, who, according to the movie, didn't even believe in exorcism. He believed that all these cases of demonic possession was, either somebody who was genuinely mentally ill or just faking it, whatever. And so in the end, he discovers what was really going on. And as he finally realizes it, he finds himself right in the middle of a ritual. They're going to sacrifice the girl now. And so he tries to escape and they wind up killing him. It was just a bizarre movie. But, in some ways, very true to life too, because this does go on. Where, people, use religion as a cloak, a Christian religion or whatever, as a cloak to hide their satanic, practices. You look at your televangelists, guys, a lot of them are actually Satanists. A lot of them, I'm sure they go to Bohemian Grove. Pat Robertson is very chummy. Always has been with the Bush family. In fact, he was a childhood friend of Daddy Bush. They grew up together. His father was a congressman, Pat Robertson. Also a, high-ranking Mason. Robertson is a Mason, too. He's made so many Masonic hand signs. Not only the Baphomet thing, but, he's been on the cover of several national magazines with that hidden hand gesture. He tucks his right hand under the flap of his jacket. That's a classic Masonic hand sign. You see a lot of, Napoleon did it, for crying out loud. A lot of dignitaries around the world to this day are photographed doing that. It's all on purpose. They want you to see that because they know most people will never catch on. But for the few that do, they love to play that little game with you. Ha ha, yeah, we're Masons. But go ahead, go talk about it. Just make a fool of yourself. Anyway, Monarch victims generally respond more readily to a rigid, religious, dogmatic, legalistic, hierarchical structure because it parallels their base programming. So a lot of times, they want them involved in that kind of a setting for that reason, to continue this control mechanism, authoritarianism. Authority usually goes unchallenged, as their will has already been usurped through subjective and command-oriented conditioning. So they love to get them involved in that kind of crap. It's a cloak, and it also helps to continue, again, that authoritarian, submissive mindset to authoritarianism. Anyway, let's look at the various levels of Monarch programming. First, there's what's called the Alpha. Regarded as general or regular programming within the base control personality, characterized by extremely pronounced memory retention, along with substantially increased physical strength and visual activity. They found, guys, that through this method of programming, not only can you control a person to a frightening degree, but you can also enhance memory and even strength. Tap into areas of the brain that controls the release of endorphins, and you can do some amazing things. It's pretty pathetic, guys, using a person literally as a robot. And so, like I said, when you look at bozos like the Gaga lady, you're looking at somebody, guys, who's had their mind so completely disrupted. She might as well have had a lobotomy. Her brain has been physically altered without even having to perform surgery. Physiological changes take place in the brain because of the traumatic abuse that these victims are subjected to. They'll never be right again. Never. People that have won lawsuits because of their MK Ultra abuses, they'll never be right again. Their minds are permanently damaged physically as well as mentally. In fact, the mental problems that they now suffer from are a result of the physical changes that have taken place. What happens is, with this multiple personality syndrome that results from trauma, the brain releases endorphins, and this is where the alternate personality comes in. The brain becomes poisoned from these chemicals that the brain releases as a protective mechanism, rather than, have the person die of a heart attack. The brain will inflict brain damage on itself so the conscious mind can more easily cope with the trauma, the shock, the abuse. So rather than die, the brain poisons itself, literally, so that it can survive. This has been known, as I said, since ancient times. Reference to this type of thing is made in the Egyptian Book of the Dead. And how much you want to bet elite you pigs were behind that, too. But anyway, alpha programming is accomplished through deliberately subdividing the victim's personality, which, in essence, causes a left brain, right brain division, allowing for a programmed union of, left and right through neuron pathway stimulation. They've got it, unfortunately, guys, down to a science. They've been, as I said, most of these techniques were already known before MK Ultra came along. They just perfected it more and brought modern scientific advancements into the picture, integrated it. Then there's the beta level, referred to as sexual programming. This programming eliminates all learned moral convictions and stimulates the primitive sexual instinct devoid of inhibitions. Cat alters, as they're called, C-A-T, may come out at this level, hence the leopard and tiger theme in seduction or, pornographic images. You'll see this very often. You'll see a woman, dressed like a leopard or a tiger or something. This is from the beta programming level. They're appealing to your animal instincts, if you will. So disgusting, guys. The total demoralization and degradation of not only the victims of the programming, but their audience, too. All right, guys. Short break. Be right back. All right, everybody. Welcome back. I see we got a caller. I'll go to him in just a minute. I just want to cover a few more points here. I'm hoping to get at least to the halfway point of these notes by the end of the show. And hopefully finish this on Friday. Next week I want to get into the Hollywood aspect of this. Tomorrow I got a guest. Let's look at the Delta level. This is known as killer programming, originally developed for training special agents or elite soldiers, i.e. the Delta Force, 1st Earth Battalion. The Mossad uses it quite a bit, in covert operations. Optimal adrenal output and controlled aggression is evident with those who have been trained with the killer programming, the Delta programming. In fact, that's where you get Delta Force from, guys. Delta level Monarch programming. They're coming right out and telling you, the Delta Force, they're coming out and telling you that they've been, telling you without telling you, that they've been programmed with Monarch Delta programming as killers. They're trained assassins through mind control. Subjects are absolutely devoid of fear. Very often they're impervious to pain, show no emotion when they inflict pain. How much you want to bet, guys, that a lot of the participants in the Inquisition were subjected to this kind of mind control and brainwashing? Absolutely. They themselves were subjected to trauma, so much so that they're numb to it, have no compassion because their minds have been completely altered. I mean, no doubt there are sick people in this world that don't need this kind of training, but that's not that common of a thing. When you've got hundreds, yea, thousands of people trained to torture. They had to have been desensitized very early on. And early stages of that occur today, guys, with kids playing video games. It already helps to prep them for future work. Some, they don't even have to Monarch. You know, they already are devoid of a conscience. They're already ready to go. All right, cool. We can just override that whole assembly line process or reassembly line. They're ready to go. Send them out. Others, though, they might still have a conscience. They played the video games. They have a lesser degree of moral standards than you know, what they ordinarily would have had, but it's not enough. So we still got to monarch them a little bit here to finish what was already instilled in them from the video games. I'm telling you guys, this stuff is designed. Why do you think the Pentagon, for example, has taken an interest in video games and has helped many companies produce them, has had a lot of input in their production? Yeah, they recognize that this it's a great recruitment tool, but it's also a great training tool. Train them before they even join the military. They're already prepped. They already got certain skills, you know, parts of their brain that handle that type of, you know, that train them to have the type of coordination that's needed to operate tanks or fighter jets, whatever. It's already there. Anyway, subjects of the Delta training, as I said, are devoid of fear. They're very systematic in carrying out their assignment, carrying out orders. Self-destruct or suicide instructions are layered in at this level because, you know, they're dealing with very sensitive information and you know, very high-profile murders very often. So very often they're trained to commit suicide, and they'll carry it out with the same mindless, emotionless precision that they would the murder of somebody else. They'll kill their own selves and not even think twice about it. Their self-defense mechanism has been neutralized. All they know how to do is carry out orders. Guys, believe it or not, they've been doing this for decades. This isn't some futuristic type thing we're talking about. This is going on today. Literally reducing people to the level of robots, cyborgs. Anyway, let's go on to the fade-out level. Considered to be the psychic programming level. Bloodliners, or, you know, those coming from multi-generational satanic families, were determined to exhibit a greater propensity for having telepathic abilities than did non-bloodliners. So these people are prime candidates for this type of thing. Another reason why Satanist groups often work in tandem with intelligence groups. You know, their ritual abuses already have people prepped for the kind of thing they want. And they're already said to have, quote, psychic abilities. You know, there is something to it, guys. I mean, the CIA, the KGB, a lot of intelligence agencies have invested millions and millions of dollars decades ago researching, you know, extrasensory perception and whatnot, because they know that there is something to it. And I'm not even saying that, you know, you have to resort to some spiritual, otherworldly explanation for this. It's just powers that the mind has on its own. You know, they were looking to tap into this. No telling how much progress has been made in that area, because like so many other things, they're going to, you know, they've suppressed that as well. A lot of technological developments have been suppressed. Well, so has this. MK Ultra records have been destroyed. We don't know what kind of advances have been made and how much they actually know. But that was one of the sub-projects of MK Ultra, to develop, you know, to research and learn how to tap into these hidden powers of the mind. In fact, I just mentioned, you know, how to increase strength through adrenaline releases. We know that under duress, there have been many documented cases where, a mother sees her child hit by a car and the kid is pinned underneath the car. The mother goes up without even thinking about it, lifts the car up and throws it off of her kid. And, she's not thinking about the car is too heavy, I can't lift it. She just goes over, her drive to save her child's life is so strong that adrenaline releases enable her to effortlessly lift the car up. And that it's only later after, she tends to her kid and the paramedics come, and it's only later that someone comes up to her and says, do you realize what you did? And she's like, well, no, what do you mean? You lifted that car off your kid, So it's known that the mind has these abilities. You look at, if you've ever seen the movie Rain Man, and the incredible things that, this autistic savant was able to do, what's his name? Dustin Hoffman played the part. But there are autistic savants that can do the things that Hoffman did in that movie. You can drop a book of matches, and just by glancing at the pile, they know exactly how many matches are in that pile. You can give them your birth date, and they can tell you what day of the week you were born on. They have incredibly ingenious mathematical minds. Don't we have that ability as well? Of course. But their disability has enabled them to bring that out. The mind has a way of making up, compensating or overcompensating in one area where it lacks in another. And so a lot of Monarch and MK Ultra programs were designed to tap into that ability. How much progress have they made? Again, we don't know, but we do know that several of these sub-projects focused specifically on areas like this. Tapping into, potentials of superhuman strength, superhuman mental abilities, memorization skills. They've done this, guys. They might have it perfected. Who knows? Unfortunately, though, in order to enable people to tap into that, they have subjected them to trauma. Trauma brings this out. Trauma, which brings brain damage, brings this out. Is there a way to tap into those powers without brain damage? Who knows? But you can bet that they've been able to do that through, subjecting people to trauma. How sick. What absolute sick bastards. Anyway, just got about a minute or so left of the break. I'll take the call after the break. Let me just try to cover as much as I can between now and then. The call will probably take up the rest of the show. Due to its evident limitations, the theta method, various forms of electronic mind control systems were developed and introduced, namely biomedical human telemetry devices or brain implants. A lot of that was done, and I'm sure probably still is. Directed energy lasers using microwaves and or electromagnetics, all kinds of sick crap, guys, they subjected people to with these programs. All right, short break. I'll be right back. All right, everybody, welcome back. I should mention, so much work has been done with this, guys. It's astonishing. A lot of the brain implants, and they're still doing this stuff. It works in conjunction with, supercomputers and satellite tracking systems. They're able to monitor everything that these trained killers, these mindless drone killers, whose minds they've completely destroyed. They're able to monitor their every move via satellite. The implant includes a chip, of course. And they can remotely transmit messages directly into their brains to make sure that they carry out with precision exactly what they want them to do at the exact moment. It's friggin' astonishing, man. Absolutely astonishing. I tell you, folks, and this is stuff that we know. Can you imagine what we don't know? We probably don't even know 1% of what the hell they're up to. What we know is frightening enough. I shudder to think what the hell they're doing that has never seen the light of day, that has never leaked out, and never will, probably. What a sick world, that's all I gotta say. But, this is what you get when you allow each you pigs to run your country. All right, let's go to Tim in Wisconsin. How's it going, Tim?
The more I hear about you expose about MK Ultra and other stuff like that, the more it just makes me feel like it'd be so good if we can build to get this country back so that that kind of stuff can be banned and done away with.
I'm glad you said get the country back. Some people talk about turning it around. No, you can't turn it around. You have to get it back because it's gone. It's been stolen.
Because that's stuff that that really shouldn't even be allowed. Because it's besides it being messing with a person's mind against their will, it's also causing harm. Is when it comes to the stuff causing brain damage.
Right.
So that's where I guess that's all I could think of that I wanted to say about that.
Sure. I mean, you look at, like I was saying earlier, Britney Spears, a lot of people say, oh, she's crazy. Those Hollywooders, what's the matter with them? They just can't handle that fame. Most of the time, when they do really bizarre stuff, like just out of nowhere suddenly shave their head, get married in Vegas, and then go across the street 15 minutes later and get a divorce, these are classic symptoms of someone who's had their brain majorly screwed up. We're not dealing with, simple drug problem or alcohol problem. These people are totally, permanently brain damaged, and that's exactly what we're dealing with. Anyway, was that it, Tim?
Oh yeah. I did just think of one more other thing. Because of what I said before, that's what also makes me glad, about you, telling before about MK Ultra victims being able to win lawsuits. Even though, like you said, even though sure they won't ever be right again. That's also where I'm still glad. That they still been able to, win lawsuits, MK Ultra victims, because that's also something that also needs to, start being, fought even, legally.
And that will silence the bozos who try to say that, oh no, the government doesn't do that. The government has awarded millions and millions of dollars in lawsuits to victims of this program. It's amazing that people deny something exists that the government has already paid out lawsuits for. It's just unbelievable. Maybe these people have been MK Ultra. I don't know. Anyway, thanks for the call, Tim.
Yep.
Take care. Anyway, just a couple more minutes left here, guys. I'll go over a few more points, and then, like I said, I'll finish. Well, I don't know if I'll finish it, but I'll pick this up on Friday. Got a guest tomorrow, and like I said, Thursday, I won't be doing a live show. But let's move on to the Omega level. This is a self-destruct form of programming, also known as Code Green. The corresponding behaviors include, again, social tendencies and or self-mutilation. This level of programming is generally activated when the victim begins therapy or interrogation, at which time usually too much memory is being recovered. They obviously don't want that. Some victims, they've been able successfully to completely erase their memories to the point of no retrieval, even under hypnosis. The damage is so severe, but with most of them, through counseling and through hypnosis, they are able to recover. But, it's sad because in recovering those memories, it's very traumatic. But for a lot of them, it's also necessary so that they can put it behind them and move on. But anyway, the final stage or the final level of programming is the gamma. Another form of system protection is through deception programming, which elicits information and misdirection. This level is intertwined with demonology and tends to represent itself at a later time if inappropriately deactivated. In other words, and you'll hear this sometimes, I've heard it like from radio talk show hosts, if they have a guest on that's been a victim of this, the guest who's familiar with it has gone through it. They'll warn listeners, if you suspect that you have been a victim of MK Ultra, you might not want to listen to this show because I'm going to be using certain key words that might trigger some of your programming. And so this is the gamma level, where they'll program, key words. Sometimes they're common words that are known amongst victims. Other times they're words that are endemically chosen just for that person. Sometimes they're words that, are nonsensical, that would never come out by chance. Unless like supercalifragilistic, just a nonsensical phrase that nobody will know except that person and the programmer. But anyway, and consciously, the victims don't even know the word. Only when it's heard by them will the subconscious pick up on it, and then their alternate kicks in. Anyway, let's take a closer look at the psychopathic methodology of Monarch. The initial process begins with creating disassociation within the subject, usually occurring from the time of birth to about 6 years of age. Most of them, guys, they get them very young. Very rarely do they take someone as an adult to work with them and program them. This is almost always, without exception, something they begin at a very early age, torturing a young child. And again, this is why they love Satanism, because Satanism involves killing animals, killing other children, and having them first witness it and then later participating in it. It's great for desensitizing, disassociation, trauma, and inducing multiple personality syndrome. A lot of times, these psychopathic bastards, they'll get a kid a pet, and they'll get the kid to fall in love with the pet. They'll have them take care of it for several months, or a year, whatever. Have the kid totally fall in love with this pet, sleep with it every night. They'll nourish that relationship. And then they'll turn around and slaughter the pet in front of the kid. Or they'll have the kid slaughter the pet, and if the kid won't do it willingly, if they can't threaten them to do it, they'll grab their hand with the knife in it and make them do it, the sick bastards. All part of the desensitization, disassociation, and induction of multiple personality program. You sick son of a bitches. All right, guys, that's it for today. Like I said, I'll pick this up on Friday. Got a guest tomorrow. We'll see you then. Take care. Anyway, so let's pick up where we left off on, I guess it was it Wednesday? Yeah, talking about the Monarch, or Tuesday. I had a guest, I guess, Wednesday, yeah. Tuesday, talking about Monarch. We were mentioning how they subject their victims to severe trauma using various forms of electroshock therapy, physical, sexual abuse, exposure to violence, making them witness violent acts in films or live, having them fall in love with a pet and then slaughter the pet in front of them, or have them slaughter the pet, or forcefully hold their hand, and it's just psychopathic frickin' crap to induce multiple personality syndrome. And all the while this is going on, they're programming messages, key phrases, trigger words, on and on, using a lot of times, Disney films. We'll get into some more of that when we get back, guys. Stick with us. So anyway, some of the first programming themes included films like The Wizard of Oz, Alice in Wonderland, both of which are heavily saturated with occult symbolism. They prefer, since they're so involved with the occult themselves, they prefer to use films with occult themes, and so they draw heavily upon that. Many MKUltra victims have described in detail, having gone through hypnosis. Some people are so severely traumatized, their mind has been so fractured and segmented, the memories can't be recovered. But with some of them they have, and there's a consistency among them with their description of the use of films like this. And it's not just films. A lot of times they'll use books. For example, the obviously MKUltra assassins or assassin wannabes, such as John Hinckley Jr., the one who tried to kill Reagan, obvious MKUltra victim. He was very much into, and in fact had on his possession the day of the attempted assassination, had on his person, I should say, in his possession, the book Catcher in the Rye, which is the same book that John Lennon's assassin had in hand the day of the assassination. And so, what they'll do is they'll call you ahead of time and, tell you to read from page such and such. And so, that'll, put them in the mindset of the assassin, the trigger word. And then later they'll tell them, after pulling the trigger, go to page 19. And so they'll read that, and that'll snap them out of it. So they don't have to make another phone call or contact them, just having them read the book. Certain key phrase on that page will pull them out of that altar. And so now, even if interrogated by police, they'll never be able to tell them what's going on. They'll have no recollection that, that they were involved. That was the case with Sirhan. Anyway, he had no recollection of even being in the hotel, let alone being in the kitchen firing a gun. As it turns out, many Disney movies, as I said before the break, and cartoons have been used by Monarch programmers in a twofold manner. First, to desensitize using subliminals and neuro-linguistic programming, NLP. In fact, they use that on the general public as well as with Monarch subjects. But, a lot of the cartoons are very violent, especially if you're on a mind-expanding drug and you're a young, impressionable mind, a young child. That stuff can, appear quite traumatic, and so that's what it's designed to do. Shock, some of the Bugs Bunny cartoons, folks, pretty nasty. And so with a really young kid, it frightens them, and that's the whole point. And of course, another use is to deliberately construct specific triggers from the cartoon. They use the cartoon to deeply implant, a message that they want to call upon later as an adult. If they need to call upon him as an assassin or something, they can make reference to a certain line from a certain Disney cartoon, Disney film. And again, you'll see a lot of this imagery when I do the Hollywood show popping up with a lot of Hollywood figures making reference to these things, later on in their adult life. Anyway, a prime example of how subliminal programming works is by looking at the Disney film Pocahontas. By the way, this film has often been hailed as proudly hailed as their 33rd animated movie. Interesting, reference to Freemasonry there, 33rd degree, Scottish Rite Freemasonry. In this movie, Grandmother Willow, there's a mystical 400-year-old tree that counsels the motherless Pocahontas to listen to her heart and help her realize that all the answers lie within. Again, you can see this occult theme. Grandma Willow is constantly talking in double speak and using reversals, i.e., sometimes the right path is not the easiest one, which is the esoteric derivative of, the left path, or the path that leads to destruction is the easiest one. Just double speak. In the esoteric world, and of course that has connotations with, something Christ had said, the broad path leads to destruction, and the narrow path to eternal life. They like to play on themes like that. In the esoteric world and in the world of mind-controlled programming, the willow tree represents powerful occult forces. Most of the time people watch these things or have their kids watch these things and don't even realize the manipulation that's taking place, and that, virtually everything going on in these cartoons, folks, has deep occult meaning. I'll do another show on this sometime, but a lot of more modern Disney films are loaded with not only occult themes, but very obvious, blatant sexual innuendos, subliminally, exposing kids to graphic sexual themes. But that's another story. Talk about that another time. The novels and movies of frightmonger Stephen King are purported to be used for such villainous purposes as well, in Monarch programming. One of his books, Insomnia, for example, features a picture of King with a trigger phrase, "We never sleep," indicative of someone with multiple personality disorder in Monarch jargon. And beneath, you see an all-seeing eye. Anyway, let's take a look at some other movies and even some TV shows that have been used to reinforce base programming and Monarch mind control victims. We'll do that after the break, guys. Stick with us. All right, guys, welcome back. So here's some other prominent films and TV shows that have been used with Monarch programming. Again, they target, they use this with adults too, but, most of the victims of programs like this have been children over the years. They start them when they're very young, so they use, child-oriented movies. Pinocchio is one. And all through these same movies, you'll see occult themes echoed time and time again, and very often, explicit sexual connotations as well. It's amazing, guys, if you start doing some Google searches, type in, cartoons, sex themes or whatever, you'll see all kinds of stuff. For example, and like I said, I'll do a whole show on this, but in the Lion King movie, there's one scene where the Simba, or whatever the name of the lion is there, Simba, is tired and he flumps down, to take a nap, and when he does so, a puff of dust comes up from the ground. And it goes by really quick. You don't really see it unless you freeze frame the thing. But for a split second, the puff of smoke that is raised in the air spells out the word sex very clearly. No question about it, S-E-X. And, what the hell is the purpose of that? It's warped, it's twisted, it doesn't belong in a kid's movie. But, this is all part of the little subliminal suggestiveness that opens the mind to, and, there's other themes in there, too. Sex-oriented themes. There's one scene where you can hear a bunch of whispers in the background, or, people talking in the background. I don't know, I think that they're just walking through the streets, and you can hear a bunch of people. But clearly mixed in with all the other talking, you can hear one of the voices saying, "Take off your clothes." What the hell's the purpose of that? Take off your clothes. Psychopathic bunch of crap. I tell you, folks, be careful what you let your kids watch. And, these are films that were made years ago. The stuff coming out now is worse than ever, but you even got to watch out with stuff that came out years ago. All kinds of subliminal, trying to introduce kids to Leet You Pig filth, sexually explicit crap, and, occult BS. And but anyway, Pinocchio was another one. Sleeping Beauty, Snow White, Beauty and the Beast, Aladdin, The Little Mermaid, again, The Lion King, all of these things just loaded with occult themes. E.T., Star Wars, Ghostbusters, Trancers 2. Well, I mean, just the name Trancers, highly indicative of mind control, putting you in a trance. The Batman movies, big time. So dark and foreboding. In fact, they call him the Dark Knight, don't they? Look at the dualism there, folks. It's supposed to be a good guy, and yet he's dark and foreboding with with very strong evil overtones. It's not the, G. Willikers Batman that you watched on TV back in the 60s, with Adam West. This new Batman, and I guess they got another one coming out next summer. This new Batman, it's not for kids. It scares them. It's, again, trying to pawn off something dark and foreboding as though it's good. It's all psychological warfare to twist the mind, to get you to associate bad with good, good with bad. The show Bewitched, of course, heavily laden with occult themes. Fantasy Island, believe it or not, had a lot of that. And has been used in Monarch programming. Reboot, I'm not even sure what that one is. Tiny Toons, DuckTales, The Tall Book of Make-Believe, on and on it goes. A few movies which depict or portray some aspect of Monarch programming, actually make reference to it, are Hellraiser 3, Raising Cain, Labyrinth, Telephone, Johnny Mnemonic, Point of No Return, The Lawnmower, or The Lawnmower Man, I'm not even familiar with that one, and Closer Land. I don't recall that one either, but anyway, these are some examples of movies that have actually either mentioned by name or through indirect inference made reference to the Monarch mind control program. So, Hollywood's known for this, guys. They throw stuff out there like that, sometimes right in your face, and of course that only makes sense. The Leet You Pigs are behind all of it. Music also plays a key role in programming, through combinations of variable tones, rhythms, and words, the lyrics themselves. But, that's another whole show. In fact, I did a show quite a while back already on music and, the negative influences therein and, the occult themes. But I'll have more to say on that in the future as well. But the music industry is just chock full of this stuff. A lot of your famous musicians blatantly flaunt occultism right in your face. I talked about Lady Gaga, and her all-seeing eye theme constantly. Every time you see her, she was on TV last night. In fact, she did a special for Thanksgiving. I didn't really watch it. I had it on in the background. I was working on something. I intended to watch it because I wanted to see, if she was going to be doing her little eye thing again. I didn't really catch it. If anybody saw it, and saw anything like that, give me a call, let me know, or email me or whatever. But, almost every time she's done an interview, at some point or other in the interview, you'll see her doing that. She'll cover one eye and, give a bizarre stare with the other. It's the all-seeing eye theme. Or she'll do like a peace sign and make a ring shape, with her index finger and thumb, a little circle, and then she'll put it over her eye. And the way she does it, of course, it's not really a peace sign. It's actually making the sign of the Eye of Horus. Anyway, not just her, a lot of them do that, but her probably more than anybody else that I know of anyway. Let's look at some top programmers that have worked specifically in the Monarch program. Some of these I already mentioned because they've worked with MK Ultra in general, several different programs. But anyway, one particularly evil scumbag behind Monarch, and similar programs is Dr. Gruenbaum, who also went by the color-coded name of Dr. Green. Mentioned him last week when I talked about the MK Ultra program in general. In fact, he was named by several victims that won lawsuits, regarding MK Ultra. His real name is Gruenbaum. He's a Jew, ladies and gentlemen. We'll be right back. All right, guys, welcome back. Another major operative in the Monarch program was Dr. D. Ewan Cameron, of course, from up in Montreal. Another psychopath, another Jew psychopath. He was the former head of the Canadian, American, and World Psychiatric Associations. Massive amounts of sums of money were funneled up to him by Alan Dulles, to conduct these experiments, over the border. They thought it would be easier and it was easier to get away with it up there. They wouldn't be under such close scrutiny. It was in another country. The same reason, that they do a lot of their torturing in Guantanamo. But at the same time, they're prepping you to, conditioning you to accepting it being done here. And it is. They're using it on prisoners. They have been for quite some time. But, they want to get you used to seeing this as, being the norm. Accepting it as the norm. Anyway, experiments were conducted by Cameron at several locations in Montreal, mostly at McGill University, St. Mary's Hospital, and the Allen Memorial Institute. Besides the conventional methods of psychiatric tyranny, such as electroshock, drug injections, and lobotomies, Cameron received, he was the one who conceived the unique technique of psychic driving, wherein unsuspecting patients were kept in a drug-induced coma for several weeks at a time, and were administered a regimen of electroshocks while electronic helmets were strapped to their heads, and repetitive auditory messages were transmitted at variable speeds. Absolutely disgusting, folks. These people were, physically and mentally abused, causing permanent, irreparable damage. Many of them, you can bet, died during this trauma. And the guy did it with no less concern than passing, a knife through a loaf of bread. I mean, it means nothing, of no consequence, no conscience whatsoever. So are you surprised to discover over and over again that doctors involved in programs like this are Jews? Should it surprise you? Elite Jew scum, they have no concern because, guys, again, it's part of their Talmudic war against Gentiles. Gentiles to them are nothing but beasts of burden, exploitable commodities put here to serve them. You know, I knew about the New World Order, as I said, years ago, long before I found out about the elite Jew pig factor. And it always used to, make me wonder, how can this be? I mean, I knew this stuff was going on. I knew these big multinational banks and heads of multinational corporations, were involved in this crap. But, a lot of them were Americans. They were born here. They were from, New York and other major American cities. And so how could they have such, traitorous, treasonous attitudes toward fellow Americans? How could they betray them so terribly? Well, now I understand. It's no longer a mystery. Makes total sense. When you don't understand the elite Jew pig factor, it really is a mystery. How could they do this? And have no conscience? How could they not care that they're destroying their own country? It's not their own country, you see. They don't give a damn. You're enemies to them. Doesn't matter that they're born here. Their loyalties are with the tribe. Anyway, many of Cameron's victims, it turns out, were abused children to begin with that had been run through the Catholic orphanage system up in Montreal, just like, the boys' school, a Catholic-run orphanage, where the Franklin scandal was getting their cannon fodder for their pedo and snuff film rings. A lot of times they cooperate with corrupt Catholic, orphanages and whatnot to get their victims from. So these kids had already been abused. They were already in abusive homes. And now they come into a facility, an orphanage, where they think they're finally going to get rescued from the abuse, right? Get treatment, get help, get their lives back in order, and they only to discover they're getting even more abuse, worse abuse, in fact, than what they had previously suffered. Yeah, it's freaking unbelievable, man. Anyway, here's another prominent doctor that worked in Monarch, a former U.S. Army lieutenant colonel in the DIA's Psychological Warfare Division, the Defense Intelligence Agency's Psychological Warfare Division. I mentioned him before. Michael Aquino, another government-sponsored sadist and Satanist, as it turns out. Now, isn't that interesting? Once again, guys, you always find this with MK Ultra, with the CIA in general, any of their programs, and you find it with the pedo rings. All of these things interlocked. Pedo rings, snuff film rings, Satanist groups, and intelligence agencies. They go together like a hand in a glove, like peanut butter and jelly. And, of course, all of those go together with elite Jew pigs, because that's what Mr. Aquino is. Another Sephardic Marrano Jew pig. This guy was a student, by the way, of Anton LaVey, another elite Jew pig Satanist who founded the First Church of Satan in San Francisco. Talk more about him when I do my show on Satanism. Another Jew. But anyway, Aquino was one of his students. He later branched off and founded the Temple of Set, another Satanist, satanic church, if you will. This guy has been tied in with several pedo rings, one of which he ran out of Erfurt base there, in Nebraska, and then he moved to California and ran another pedo ring on a military base there. So notice, once again, the connections, guys. Intelligence, the military, Satanism, Judaism, all tied in with pedo rings and snuff films. Unfreaking believable. And, of course, throw that in with the mixed bag. Mind control programs like MKUltra, Monarch, all tied in together. Anyway, Aquino, an eccentric genius, if you will, and that's what's scary. A lot of these people are actually highly intelligent. And of course, they use their intelligence for evil. He was obsessed with ancient pagan rituals, of course, being a Satanist. He was also connected with the Presidio Army Base daycare scandal, in which he was accused of child molestation. But as always, guys, they get away scot-free. He was acquitted. And he was all too happy to boast about that when a question was raised to him during an interview. I forget now if it was on the Donahue show or whatever the hell. It's on some national TV show, and he was asked about it. And he has this evil bastard grin on his face. You just want to shove your foot through his friggin' throat. And he's just grinning, Oh, well, in case you didn't notice, I was acquitted of those charges. He was totally guilty, ladies and gentlemen. But, in this elite Jew pig-controlled justice system of ours, of course, he rode scot-free. Happens all the time. In fact, in this elite Jew pig-run system of ours, usually the people that get charged with stuff like that didn't even do it. Were totally framed, totally innocent. The ones who do things like that, if they even get brought to court at all, get acquitted. Usually it doesn't even go to that level. They don't even get arrested, let alone charged. They ride scot-free, and the innocent wind up in jail. Oh, you gotta love it, guys. Happens more times than you care to know. Short break, be right back. All right, guys, welcome back. So our little Aquino friend was codenamed Malcolm. This is very common. CIA assets, usually given fake names. That was his name. And he was reported to have developed training tapes on how to create a monarch slave and worked as a liaison between government, military intelligence, and various criminal organizations. That's very common, once again, for intelligence agencies to work with, I shouldn't say to work with criminal organizations, to work with other criminal organizations, because that's what they are, as well as occult groups in the distribution of monarch slaves. You see what happens, guys. They work in tandem, exchanging victims back and forth. Oh, you abused this one? Okay, we need that one for this purpose. We have this abused victim over here. You want to use it for, you want to use this guy for a human sacrifice? How about you give us one of your victims that you've already been abusing and subjecting to trauma? We'll use them for an assassination, and then later we'll give them back to you, and you can assassinate them or use them as an occult human sacrifice victim later. Absolutely unfriggin' believable. But this is why, Aquino was acquitted, guys. Because of his intelligence connections. And if he got convicted, the whole damn thing would have come down. He probably, out of anger that he was betrayed, he would have opened his mouth, or they would have had to kill him, one or the other. But no, he's one of their inside boys, so of course they're going to take care of him. He had worked faithfully with them in the past, and they were looking forward to him working with them more in the future. He was a useful asset to them. Elite Jew pigs, of course. That alone will get you off the hook. But you understand what I'm saying. He was part of the MKUltra program, guys. Of course he's going to get acquitted. Even though, in fact, he is a child molester. He was doing that molesting as part of the Monarch program. And he also did it in conjunction with his occult practices. He integrated the two together, as the CIA is known for doing. But, how people can miss that connection, it is intimate. It's thoroughly documented. As a matter of fact, a good book to read on this, very unbiased. The guy is just reporting facts. He's not pushing any agenda. Is David McGowan's book, Program to Kill. That is one hell of a thoroughly documented volume on psychopathic killers and their intelligence / Satanist occult connections. It's very gory, I'll tell you that. It's not a pleasant read, but boy, does he go into elaborate detail, showing how over the decades, he talks about all kinds of, he goes back to the Manson murders and all kinds of famous cases and some not so famous. He talks about, so-called serial killers, lone nut serial killers. They're never lone nuts. They never, ever work alone. They're always part of a network, and that network always has intelligence / military connections. Check it out, guys. It'll drop your jaw. You want to see how deep this rat hole goes? In fact, I have a couple shows coming up based around some of the material in that book. It's just jaw-dropping. It's unbelievable. Another name that worked closely with Monarch was Heinrich Mueller. Another Jewy Jew. He went under the code name of either Dr. Blue or Gog. He apparently had 2 sons who have carried on the trade. The original Dr. Black was apparently Leo Wheeler, the nephew of the deceased General Earl G. Wheeler, who was the commander of the Joint Chiefs of Staff during the Vietnam War. Another one is Wheeler's protege, E. Hummel, active in the Northwest, along with W. Bowers from the Rothschild bloodline. So, another Jewy Jew. Let's look at some other mastermind manipulators, past and present, in the Monarch program. Listen to these names, guys. Reading this list of names sounds like reading a list of Wall Street CEOs, if you know what I mean. Sidney Gottlieb, of course, was big in the Monarch program. MK Ultra across the board. Another Jew. Lieutenant Colonel John Alexander. Could be Jewish, I'm not sure. I wasn't able to determine that. Richard Dabney. Or Dabney Anderson, excuse me. Richard Dabney Anderson. United States Navy. Not sure if he was a Jew. That's quite possible. James Monroe. I don't believe he was. But John Lilly, you better believe it. Lieutenant Commander Thomas Narut, another Jew. William Jennings Bryan, another Jew. Bernard L. Diamond, another Jew. Martin T. Henry, another Jew. Lewis West, I'm not sure about. Robert Lifton, another Jew. Harris Isbell, once again. And Wilson Green, Colonel Wilson Green, another Jew. So what do we have? At least 3/4 of these names, if not more? In fact, I think more than 3/4, guys. In any case, a whopping majority, as always. A whopping majority of them are Jews. Are you surprised? Disgusting, filthy pigs. Anyway, In order to keep MKUltra from being easily detected, the CIA segmented its sub-projects into specialized fields of research and development at respectable universities, prisons, private laboratories, and hospitals around the country. Of course, they were rewarded generously with government grants and other miscellaneous types of funding. You know, a lot of this came under their black budget. And like I said, a lot of documents have been destroyed, so there's no way really of tracing down a lot of, you know, what was involved here. But what we do know is shocking enough. Some of these major institutions involved in Monarch programming were and still are Cornell, Duke, Princeton, UCLA, University of Rochester, MIT, Georgetown University Hospital, Maimonides Medical Center. Do I have to mention who runs that? St. Elizabeth's Hospital, Washington, D.C., Bell Laboratories, Stanford Research Institute, Westinghouse Friendship Laboratories, General Electric, Arco, a division of Arco built HARP, by the way, General Electric guys, big Pentagon contractor, Mankind Research Unlimited. Well, we know what kind of research Mankind Research Unlimited has been up to, haven't we? Don't we? Look at this, guys. These are major, nationally and internationally renowned and, unfortunately, respectable institutions, respectable in the minds of the dumbass public. Look at these names, folks. These are highly prestigious Ivy League universities, hospitals, top-notch respected hospitals and other research facilities. Look at this. The doctors, world-renowned psychologists, psychiatrists, medical doctors, all of them involved in Monarch. Unbelievable, guys. Psychopathic, torturous human experiments conducted in these prestigious establishments. Short break, I'll be right back. All right, everybody, welcome back. Well, I don't see Natasha calling in. She must have forgotten, or maybe she got tied up with Black Friday shopping or something. I guess she's not going to be calling in. But anyways, we'll continue on here with this discussion. We were just talking about prestigious establishments around the country that have been involved in Monarch. And those are just the ones we know about. There's probably a lot more, but the final product, if you will, was and is usually created on military installations and bases where maximum security is required. This is where the final prep has been done and continues to be done on Monarch victims. Referred to as programming centers or near-death trauma centers. Some of the more well-known examples include China Lake Naval Weapons Center out in California. China Lake, guys, has been involved, by its own admission on their own website, in weather modification, going back to the Vietnam War era. And even before that, as a matter of fact, going back to the 1940s. They were involved in weather modification, beginning with, the early stages of primitive methodologies like cloud seeding, and then, getting more advanced as time went on. But China Lake has played a major role, not only in weather modification and, heaven knows what other sleazy types of advanced weapons systems, but also in trauma-based Monarch-type mind control programs. The Presidio, which I mentioned before, which Aquino was involved in. Fort Detrick is another one in Maryland. Fort Campbell, Fort Lewis, Fort Hood, Redstone Arsenal, Olfert Air Force Base in Nebraska, which Aquino had also worked with. That's also been heavily involved in Monarch programming, and of course, child molestations, on and on. It's all tied in. Patrick Air Force Base, McClellan Air Force Base, McGill, which we already mentioned, Kirkland, I think we already mentioned that one, Nelis Air Force Base, Homestead, Grissom, Maxwell Air Force Base, Tinker, on and on it goes, guys. These are ones that are known for sure to have been involved. Again, there's others that I'm sure were involved that we don't know anything about. In fact, it's probably more of a matter of naming ones that aren't involved. And there probably aren't any that haven't been involved. Other places recognized as major programming sites include Langley Research Center. That should be no surprise. Los Alamos National Laboratories. And, of course, the Tavistock Institute. They've always worked in tandem with the CIA. All right, guys, short break. Pick up there when we get back. All right, guys, welcome back. Somebody was just saying, this is so classic, in the chat room that, they spent the holiday with their families and, they're all well educated but clueless as to what's going on. And, it seems ironic, but actually that's the very explanation of why they don't know what's going on, because they're educated. They've been educated by a system that's designed to keep people ignorant of how the world really works. So their education, far from making them aware, their education is the very thing preventing them from being aware of what's going on. They don't realize that, of course. A lot of people who are educated think they got it all figured out. They don't realize that their education is designed to prevent them from figuring things out. It's a Jew-run world, folks, an elite Jew pig-run world. They run the media, they run the education system, they run everything that's criminal. So naturally, their education system that they run, their media that they run, through that, they make sure that the public never finds out what's going on, never finds out what they're up to, that they're behind every major criminal enterprise on the planet and have been for thousands of years. Anyway, let's look at some notable Monarch victims. One of the first documented cases of a Monarch secret agent was that of the voluptuous 1940s model Candy Jones. The book The Control of Candy Jones, Playboy Press, portrays her 12 years of intrigue and suspense as a spy for the CIA. Jones, whose birth name is Jessica Wilcox, apparently fit the psychological profile to be one of the initial experiments or human guinea pigs under the government's scientific project, MK-Ultra. She was one of their first targets. The most publicized case of Monarch has surfaced through the book Transformation of America. Trans, all in capital letters. I like the title of that. Trans, and then another word, formation. Transformation of America. The true life story of a CIA slave by Kathy O'Brien. I have to see if I can get her on sometime. I think she's still around. On the back, it is a good book. I have it. I've read it. It's really good. I highly recommend it if you guys haven't read that. I believe it came out in the 70s, and I think she's still around. I'll have to see if I can look her up. Anyway, on the back cover, it emphatically states, quote, Kathy O'Brien is the only vocal and recovered survivor of the Central Intelligence Agency's MK-Ultra Project Monarch mind control operation. So if you want some really good insights into how that program has worked and still does work, that's a good book to get. This documented autobiography contains compelling accounts of O'Brien's years of unrelenting incest and eventual introduction into Project Monarch by her perverted father. As I said before, guys, this is very common. A lot of the victims of Monarch and other similar programs very often were brought into the program by their parents, or one of their parents anyway, and usually that parent or parents were / are involved in intelligence work or in the military. Along with co-author Mark Phillips, her researcher and rescuer and deprogrammer, Kathy O'Brien covers an almost unbelievable array of conspiratorial crime, forced prostitution, or white slavery, with those in the upper echelons of world politics, covert assignments as a drug mule and courier, and the country western music industry's relationship with illegal CIA activities. Of course, not just country music. You know, she's just talking about her own personal experience, and it's very revealing. But again, guys, it's not just country music, it's music across the board. The entire music industry is loaded with intelligence vermin, Satanist groups, and, you know, why do you think you see so much occultism and so many satanic overtones in the modern music world? It's all interconnected. In fact, it's so bad that you scarcely make it into the music industry anymore. In fact, by now it's virtually impossible. Years ago, you could do it, even though the thing was permeated even then, decades ago, with this kind of crap. You know, you could more easily make it without that. Today, it's almost impossible. You have to be a piece of crap, or you have to have been brought through the Monarch program or a similar mind control program before they'll ever let you become a public figure like that, a public entertainer. They want to make sure they have total control over your mind so they can use you to assist them in controlling the public mind. Anyway, another victim of Monarch was Paul Bonacci. I mentioned him when I did the Franklin cover-up show. He was a victim of the Franklin, he's the one that wrote that horrific letter to John DeCamp describing a snuff film that he was forced to take part in. He was monarched from a young age. He endured almost 2 decades of degradation under Monarch. Anyway, but, he presented some very strong, irrefutable evidence of wide-scale crime and corruption. It was primarily his testimony that got DeCamp going. And every time he looked into stuff that Bonacci related, it turned up true every time. He would name names, dates, places, and then he was able to corroborate that with other victims and their stories. And, he was collecting reams and reams of evidence. He had an irrefutable, unlosable case for this massive pedo ring. And as I pointed out, he wasn't able to bring one person to justice regarding the pedophilia activities because it was so interconnected with the CIA and other intelligence agencies around the world. They squashed that whole thing. The FBI stopped him at every turn. He was only able to get convictions again on stupid petty charges like tax evasion, money laundering, whatever. And when I say petty, it's petty in comparison to that. Child molestation, porno rings, and snuff films. Unbelievable, guys. Anyways, short break, be right back. Alright, guys, welcome back. So, Bonacci has testified about sexually abused males selected from Boys Town in Omaha, Nebraska. Again, part of the Franklin thing. and taken to nearby Offutt Air Force Base, where he says that they were subjected to intense Monarch programming, directed mainly by Commander Bill Plemons and former Lieutenant Michael Aquino. He also recalled being transported from Offutt via cargo planes to McLeland Air Force Base in California. And you wonder why these bases are so heavily guarded, top secret, denied public access. This is why, guys, because of stuff like this. It's not because they're worried about foreign agents infiltrating and getting access to military secrets. Are you kidding me? Look how they give all our military secrets to Israel all the time. You think they care about some foreign entity? What a freaking joke. It's secret because of you. That's why. All this crap about concern about foreign. You think they care about foreign anything? Look at your wide open borders. What a sick frickin' joke, guys. The crap bag of goods were sold. I'm going to be doing a show on Reagan's Star Wars program, SDI, Strategic Defense Initiative. That was all for use on you. It wasn't for defense against the Russians to shoot a missile, a nuclear missile out of the sky, as soon as it was launched, before it could ever come here or anywhere near here. That wasn't the purpose at all, guys. That was a cover. I'll be doing a show on that. All the crap through the years that they've been engaged in, always telling us to defend against foreign threats. And always you have been the threat. Always you have been the target. Using your tax dollars for offensive purposes against you, not defensive purposes on your behalf. Offensive purposes against you, and you're funding it. It's always been the elite Jew pig way, folks, getting you to fund your own enslavement, your own degradation, your own destruction. Anyway, some other prominent names suspected as having been involved in Monarch programs. Lee Harvey Oswald. He exhibited some classic symptoms of someone who had some serious problems with his neural circuitry. Sirhan, unquestionably. Many independent psychologists, psychiatrists, several lawyers that have worked with him have all said the same thing. He's been subjected to hypnosis, all kinds of psychoanalysis. He exhibits the same classic symptoms that have been seen in other MKUltra victims. Charlie Manson is another example, folks. I mean, how toasted is that guy? Who can argue that guy's out to lunch? But, people will write it off. And the media, certainly, the elite Jew pig-controlled media, reinforces that. Or better yet, people's opinion that the guy's simply crazy or he did too much drugs, that probably originated from the elite Jew pig-controlled media, and then the public just picked it up and ran off with it. This is what they'll do, when someone in Hollywood does something crazy, like Britney Spears shaving her head, getting married on one side of the street in Vegas, and then divorced on the other side 10 minutes later. All the crazy stuff that Hollywooders do. Wow, they're a bunch of whack bags anyway. They're on drugs, or they're a bunch of alcoholics, or whatever. No, guys. It's their MKUltra or Monarch programming that made them this way. Look at your, what the hell was her name now? Was it Anna Nicole Smith? How bizarre she was acting, and she's such a druggie. Guys, it's MKUltra mind warping, mind control. That's their problem. Another one, John Hinckley Jr. I mentioned it before. Of course, he was found with a book known to have been used and still is used for Monarch-type programming. He had Catcher in the Rye. So did Mark Chapman, John Lennon's assassin, Catcher in the Rye. Another one believed to be a victim of a Monarch-type mind control program is David Koresh, or Vernon Howell was his real name, of Waco fame. The Branch Davidian cult there. Tim McVeigh, Ted Kaczynski, the famous Unabomber. Be doing a whole show on him sometime. Definite intelligence connections. In fact, he was an MK Ultra victim, unquestionably. He stated it, that he volunteered in his days at, was it Harvard or MIT? I think it was Harvard. He volunteered for MK Ultra mind control experiments. So there you go. No question. He was mind controlled. John Salvi is another one. On and on the list goes, guys. We could also add to this list a great many actors, as I said. The follow-up to this show, I'll be talking about, I might even get to that today before the show's over. Be talking about, Hollywood actors, musicians, and other prominent public figures that have been misunderstood as having been crazies or alcoholics or drunks, etc. No, they're MK Ultra victims. Let's look at some prominent examples of programmers and exposers over the years. Dr. Corridon Hammond, for example, a psychologist from the University of Utah, delivered a stunning lecture entitled Hypnosis in MPD, Ritual Abuse, at the 4th Annual Eastern Regional Conference on Abuse and Multiple Personality on June 25th, 1992, in Alexandria, Virginia. One of many experts in that field that have exposed this stuff over the years. He essentially confirmed the suspicions of the attentive crowd of mental health professionals, wherein a certain percentage of their clients had undergone mind control programming in an intensively systematic manner. So his message was well received. Hammond alluded to the Nazi connection. Well, he's probably a Jew, so he had to get that thrown in there. But nevertheless, he mentioned the military and CIA connections, doing joint research, all true. Greek letter and color programming, I mentioned how they use that a lot of times. They use ancient languages, even Egyptian hieroglyphs, for visual triggers. And specifically, he mentioned the Monarch project in relation to a form of operative conditioning. If you've ever taken psychology courses, in your college days, guys, a lot of these early pioneers in psychology, they were psychopathic mind control experimenters. Anyway, another short break coming in, folks. I'll be right back. All right, guys, welcome back. This Dr. Hammond that gave this 1992 speech, not surprisingly, shortly thereafter, he started receiving death threats. And not wanting to jeopardize the safety of his family, Hammond immediately stopped disseminating any follow-up information on his findings. Pretty pathetic. That's happened all too often. If what he was saying wasn't true, guys, why would he get death threats? Mark Phillips, a former electronics subcontractor for the Department of Defense, was privy to some of the top secret mind control activities perpetrated by the U.S. government. His inquisitive demeanor, strong conscience, and heartfelt concern for Kathy O'Brien a presidential model, if you will, under Project Monarch, I mentioned her a moment ago, prompted him to reveal the inner workings of this grand deception beginning about 1991. As the story goes, he helped Ms. O'Brien escape from her captors and was able to deprogram her in about a year's time in Alaska, working intensively with her, I think specifically with her, nobody else. He just dedicated his time totally to helping her to recover her memories, but also to recover from the trauma. Anyway, so there's another prominent name involved in this work. New Orleans therapist Valerie Wolf is another one. She introduced two of her patients before the President's Committee on Human Radiation Experiments that I mentioned before on March 15, 1995 in Washington, D.C. They gave their testimonies. They won lawsuits in this regard. The astonishing testimony made by both of these women included accounts of German doctors' torture, drugs, electroshock, hypnosis, and rape, besides being exposed to an undetermined amount of radiation. That was a common part of, was and probably still is, of these mind control experiments. Wolf presently devotes much of her time to counseling such survivors, focusing specifically on Monarch victims. There's a lot more out there than you care to know, folks. Tens of thousands, probably, just of Monarch, but if you add in all the victims of all these mind control programs, there's millions. Millions of them. And it's not just in this country either. This has gone on around the world. A former labor attorney for Atlantic Richfield Company, David Rosenbaum, is another one. I'm sure he's a Jew, but he conducted a 19-year investigation from 1983 to 1992. A 9-year investigation, I'm sorry, not 19. Concerning allegations of physical torture and coercive conditioning of numerous employees at an ARCO plant in Monica, Pennsylvania. Now, isn't that interesting? ARCO pops up over and over again in the MK Ultra program. ARCO, once again, guys, or a division of ARCO, built the HARP facility. You see the connections here? Anyway, this guy's clients, Rosenbaum's clients, Jerry Doty and Ann White, were victims of apparent radiation exposure, but as Rosenbaum probed deeper into the subsequent interview sessions, a Pandora's box was unveiled that went far deeper than radiation experiments. His most astonishing conclusion was that Jerry Doty and Ann White were likely the offspring of Adolf Hitler. At least that's what his, findings were after putting them under hypnosis, based in part on the uncanny resemblance also of photos, facial features, bone structure, and just the overall facial appearance. Anyway, seeing that Rosenbaum is a Jew, again, this only makes sense, wanting to pin this whole thing on Nazis, as to whether they're really, offspring of Hitler is probably not true. But nevertheless, a lot of his findings add yet more credence to this whole thing. Rosenbaum said of these two patients, quote, "They both exhibit feelings and experiences that indicate that they're twins." Doty and White were allegedly subjected to torture of many kinds. I hate that word, allegedly. Those are his words. But anyway, Well, under drug-induced hypnosis, with each one undergoing at least 3 training techniques by plant physicians. Each victim was trained to enter into a hypnotic state upon the occurrence of specific stimuli, trigger words or trigger pictures, usually involving a cue word or phrase, they said, and were trained to remember to forget what transpired in the hypnotic state. They were repeatedly subjected to identical stimulus response sequences to produce nearly automatic reactions to particular stimuli. And, recall when I did the show on Jackie Onassis, as being the possible trigger puller for the JFK hit. Notice, guys, like I pointed out in that show, when was that? Back in January, I guess it was. Very methodically and very mechanically, after the deadly blow to her husband's head, she's not the least bit concerned about her. Any wife in love with her husband is going to sit there like she lied and said she did, before the Warren Commission. She said that, immediately I hugged him and I was crying and screaming out loud, why? And, my husband, they killed my husband. Folks, she didn't hug him. She didn't scream. She didn't cry out. Very emotionlessly, she flung him off of her. He fell back and then onto her lap. She couldn't get him off her lap quick enough. She flung him off, turned around, and crawled across, the trunk of the car, reaching her hand out to meet up with the hand of her Secret Service agent. You can't see what is going on because, a passing a tree that they had passed by got in the way. But clearly, she was handing something to him. Was it the murder weapon? It's pretty obvious that's what it was. But anyway, it's obvious that this was rehearsed ahead of time, that she was programmed to do it, because that's the only thing that was on her mind after he falls on her lap. Okay, just as pre-planned, I gotta get this instrument into the hands of my Secret Service agent so he can dispose of it. Gotta get rid of the evidence. Unbelievable. So mechanically, so methodically, so emotionless, and even prior to that, of course, as I mentioned, when he takes the first hit to his throat, he's grabbing his throat, it's obvious he's in distress, he's in pain. There she is sitting right next to him. She's not even looking at him. She's looking over at Connolly, who has his head twisted back, giving her a cue, probably giving her trigger word to put her into murder mode to deal the deadly blow, to fire the deadly shot. And like I said, guys, very interesting. You can see a puff of smoke rising behind Kennedy's head, right where her hand was, indicating that that a shot was just fired from right there in the back seat, right where her hand was. Small puff of smoke indicating the gun was just fired there. Anyway, but, if you listen to the way she used to talk, very spacey, totally out to lunch. She was one fried cookie. If you ask me, she was MK Ultra as well. Anyway, guys, short break. I'll be right back. Anyway, other renowned therapists involved in deprogramming have included Cynthia Burtis, Pamela Monday, Steve Ogilvie, Bennett Braun, Jerry Mungadzi, that's a tough one to pronounce, and Colin Ross. I've interviewed him in the past. He's pretty interesting. I'll have to get him on again sometime. He's worked directly with Monarch victims. Examples of some researchers that have exposed Monarch through their books include Walter Boert, Operation Mind Control. John Rappart in his book, U.S. Government Mind Control Experiments on Children. Alex Constantine's Psychic Dictatorship in the USA. It's a good book. I got that one. Former CIA Director William Colby. Somewhat exposed Monarch. Didn't go too far with it, but he once admitted when asked directly about it, he replied, "We stopped that between the late 60s and the early 70s. It may be that he honestly thought it was over. Who knows? Recognizing, oops, he's got a conscience. They might have kept things from him as well. They certainly fired him when he was cooperating too much with the Congressional Committee on Assassinations, looking into the Kennedy assassination. He was providing a lot of information clearly implicating the CIA. So the next thing you know, they fired him. And of course, George Bush Sr. took over that position from there and immediately informed the committee that the agency would no longer be cooperating with them because they were touching on matters of national security. Notice, once again, guys, what national security means. It's what it always means. That they don't want you finding out how corrupt they are. It has nothing to do with any concern about any foreign threat. They know all these governments are controlled by the same scumbag elite you pigs that they are. They're not worried about foreign threats. They're worried about you finding out and shutting them down. That's it. Every time you hear national security, and I mean every time, that is always and only what it means. They don't want the public finding out what a bunch of criminal, corrupt bastards, sell-out pieces of traitorous, treasonous crap that they are. That's the ultimate little cloaking device they use so that the judge immediately drops the charges. And what judge has never abided by that one? Once they hear that, okay, no problem. Moving on. We'll forget that whole matter now. So disgusting, guys. So, it's quite possible that he didn't know, because when you look at how much he assisted John DeCamp in exposing the Franklin cover-up, for example, and the fact that they killed him over it, for him to say that, the CIA's mind control program was shut down in the 60s, the 70s, he probably believed it was. Why would he not have said that still existed when he exposed, so many other evil things the CIA was doing? I believe he actually had a conscience. He was a decent guy. Again, that's why they killed him. That's how when you had an honest politician or honest government worker, when they pop them off. Anyway, but in any case, there's no question it did not cease and desist in the late 60s, early 70s. Still continues to this day. And as I said, with the follow-up to this that I'll be doing starting on Monday, I'll be documenting that. We'll be talking about some Hollywood and other entertainment professionals, music entertainers, whatever, and obvious signs of Monarch-type programs still being used. It's all over the place, guys. It's in your face. Again, the show Conspiracy Theory with Jesse Ventura. He interviewed several people on that show who are modern-day victims of mind control. One of them is an assassin. He knows that he's gone on assassination missions, but usually he can't remember them. Sometimes he blacks out completely, and, he'll find an airplane ticket stub and realize, I must have gone here, must have gone there, but, he doesn't know what he did there. But, he does know that he's a trained assassin. He's a sharpshooter and whatnot, so he's assuming that they must have sent him on another hit mission. He said the last time that happened to me was 3 years ago. To my knowledge, I haven't done anything like that since. But he says, I don't know. I can never tell, if they're done with me or are they going to call upon me. Imagine living like that. you've come clean. You know that you've been used as an assassin in the past. You want to put it behind you now, and you can't, because you never know if you're going to get a phone call and suddenly hear a trigger word that will send you into your alternate, and you'll be engaging in stuff that you're totally against now. You'll be doing it against your will without your knowledge of it. It's your alter that's taking over. Wow, that's some spooky stuff, guys. But it goes on, and it goes on again on a scale probably greater than you'd care to know. Anyway, that's it for that. That completes the discussion on MK Ultra, Monarch. I'll touch upon that here and there on future shows, but essentially that's the overall view of it. Now, next week, when I talk about Hollywood celebs, it'll make more sense now when we look at some of the indications of mind control with them.